Surprenant.
What's up, San Diego? Braden Surprenant on the Braden Surprenant Show, getting you ready for Padres baseball later on. Earlier start time since they're in the Central Time Zone. Padres down in Houston to take on the Astros for the beginning of a 3-game series. Kyle Hart going against Gusto of the Houston Astros. Ryan Gusto is 1-1 with a 3 ERA. Kyle Hart is 2-0 with a 5.40 ERA. Fun weekend of Padres baseball. Couple of games on national television this weekend on Saturday and on Sunday. So got to keep it right here on 97 through the fan the entire weekend with a couple of different start times than we're not really accustomed to. 5:10 start tonight, 4:10 start on Saturday, and a 4:10 start on Sunday as the Padres will play on Fox Sports 1 on Saturday against the Astros, and we'll play on ESPN on Sunday. We'll have more of a preview coming up in a little bit on the Padres and Astros. Brandon Scott will join me in the 11:35 spot of the show to get a full preview of the Astros and what they've been up to in the last first 18 games of the season. They're 8-10. Finding some voids right now and trying to fill some voids of players that have moved on to other spots as they try to, really put together a lineup that has a lot of potential but isn't producing right now. So the Padres might be able to hit the Astros at the right time. Unfortunately for the Padres, they do have to go through two of their better three starters in the rotation. We'll talk more about that in the 1 o'clock hour. Got a fun weekend in Major League Baseball this weekend that we'll dive into. ESPN finally got wise with their power rankings yesterday and answered my question. I said, is there anything the Dodgers can do to not be number one? I guess they did. That was last week. So we'll talk more about that at noon. Drake Hills will join me at 1:35 to give a preview for the weekend for San Diego FC. They play Charlotte tomorrow and continue our soccer insider coverage with Drake Hills. So that will be at 1:35 and then a lot of other things mixed in. I was listening to Ben and Woods talk about their chasing baseball stadiums and whether or not you should do that or if it was really tickled their fancy or not. My brother actually did one of those trips. We'll talk about that at 12:15. Not every single stadium, but it's funny. One of the questions that Ben asked, not yesterday on the roundtable, but 2 weeks ago, was like your favorite ballpark. That's not Petco Park. So we'll talk more about that as well. I'd like to get your answers on that. Also, minor league updates for the Padres, and we got some San Diego State Aztec football news to get to as well. So jam-packed show on a Friday, getting you ready for Padres baseball this weekend. It's always hard coming off of an off day. And, Ben and Woods talked about that with Mike Shildt, and we're going to hear from Mike Shildt. He actually explained the contact play to Ben and Woods, so I'd like to hear his answer on that one. It was a pretty good answer. It made a lot of sense. But as they mentioned at Mike Shildt's beginning of the interview about like how difficult it is for us as fans to have to not be allowed to watch Padre games because they're not on TV. Not really allowed, but it's not on TV on a Thursday, an off day. Makes it difficult. Got to find other things to do. Last night for myself, with the Easter holiday on Sunday, I had every game get bumped up for the San Diego Toreros against the Portland Pilots in a big 3-game series here in San Diego at Fowler Park. Good win for USD last night. They won 6-3 over Portland to take a 1-0 series lead in the 3-game series, trying to win the series tonight. As Cal Scolari will be on the hill for the Toreros, and then maybe going for a sweep on Saturday for the USD Toreros against the Portland. Big pivotal series in the West Coast Conference. So that's kind of what I've been doing the last couple of times, or the last 24 hours or so. I actually had to prep. We're going to have an Easter celebration on Saturday since the family is going to Disneyland on Sunday with some of the tickets I won from the station's Super Bowl party that we had, or Super Bowl squares that we did. So we're cashing on that on Sunday since I actually don't have any work obligations between USD and 97 through the fans. So I will be doing that. My sister's in town. So instead, we're having family over on Saturday to get together for the Easter holiday, and we're doing a brisket. So I had to prep that late last night when I got home. I put it on my social media pages if you wanted to see it. But had to trim it up a little bit, get the rub on it, sitting in the fridge. We're going to throw it on later this afternoon. before I head over to USD, and then hopefully we'll be ready to go sometime tomorrow afternoon. So that's kind of like my weekend plans coming up. Padres obviously have a big series against the Astros. Not as big as probably it would be if the Astros are playing a little bit better, but also in the fact that the National League has a lot of different, they got more teams that are better, and we look at that with the MLB power rankings and everything like that, and a lot of big games and series that Padres fans should keep an eye on coming up this weekend. Overall, and this is kind of like the last we'll talk about the homestand against Colorado and the Chicago Cubs. And I thought AJ Cassavell put it together nicely on MLB.com. He put away his 6 takeaways from the Padres series versus the Cubs. And I think you could take a lot out of that series, but you could also take a lot out of the first 19 games of the season of why they've been playing so well. And it's really just, there's not a lot to complain about, as we mentioned yesterday on the show. A lot of it has to do with the fact that they're getting great production out of Fernando Tatis Jr. Petco Park is electric. Couple of good signings in between, but everybody's really pulling the rope in the right direction. So AJ Cassavell laid out the 6 takeaways from the Padres series versus the Cubs. And I have to agree with a lot of things that he put down in there, but one of them being Fernando Tatis Jr. is playing at an MVP level. If he could continue to play at an MVP level, I mean, the Padres are going to be in really good shape. I mean, I think this is the Fernando Tatis Jr. that we were expecting to see, a couple of years ago when he was just coming on the scene as a 19-year-old in 2019. He's improved his plate discipline, which has really elevated his game. He's healthy now, and obviously the power's there and the defense is there. But he slashed in a 348 with a 1048 OPS through 18 games so far this year. And if you pull up his Baseball Savant page, I mean, he is just in the top echelon of baseball in almost every statistical category that they rank baseball players in. I mean, just across the board. You can't stop talking about how great Fernando has played so far this season. He's in the top 1% in expected weighted on base average at a 483. He's in the top 2% in expected batting average. He's in the top 1% in expected slugging, top 8% in average exit velocity. He's in the top 20% or 23% in hard hit percentage. And the best stat, again, as we've mentioned before, and a big reason why he's off to a great start, is he's in the top 5% in strikeout percentage, which means he's not striking out a lot at 11.3% of the time. What a great start to the season for Fernando. You do have some concerns, though, at the bottom of the order, and I think those concerns escalated with some key injuries to Jake Cronenworth and Jackson Merrill, and even Brandon Lockridge to an extent, because what that does is now that puts another player into the order that you don't necessarily want to see there batting every single day. You're going to need to get more offensive contributions from depth players like Yuli Gurriel and Jason Hayward, despite getting some strong performances from Gavin Sheets and Tyler Wade. I mean, Tyler Wade's off to a pretty good start. He had a rough first night, even though he got a hit. A couple of at-bats were not in a good spot for Tyler Wade against Chicago, and ended up being in the they ended up winning that game. But just the way that he wasn't able to, the biggest problem with Tyler Wade was just that one at-bat where he started the at-bat with a pitch clock violation, something he obviously couldn't do, but he really bounced back in the game on Wednesday and helped the Padres win on Wednesday. Yuli Gurriel, I don't know how much longer that experiment will last. Jason Hayward's kind of back and forth. He has hit better as of late, but still nothing to write home about. You're going to need some better production out of those players in particular, especially with the guys on the injured list, which honestly leads to the next talking point of AJ Cassavell, and one that's very interesting is, and I've heard people, and I've had people ask me this already, roster decisions. Once those players do come back, when you got Jackson Merrill and Jake Cronenworth near returns, and Jackson Merrill's not on the plane, he's not on the trip, so he's not going to potentially come back till probably against the Tampa Bay Rays when the Padres come to town after their quick road trip to Houston and then Detroit. But you'll have to face some difficult choices among role players like Connor Joe, Oscar Gonzalez, and Tyler Wade. I think one of the exits is probably Yuli Gurriel, but that's obviously a decision the Padres have to make. Connor Joe's got options. I mean, he might be optioned back to AAA El Paso if he doesn't go out there and show off. I think, honestly, the players that are Connor Joe, Oscar Gonzalez, and Tyler Wade are in a tryout for the next 6 games against Houston and against Detroit. And they're going to continue to be on a tryout until those players come back, and Jackson Merrill and Jake Cronenworth. And we got an update from Mike Shildt on Ben and Woods earlier today on the status of Jackson Merrill. We'll get to that in just a little bit. But those are some of the key takeaways. We got some other key takeaways as well with guys like Randy Vásquez and José Iglesias. Petco Park being a tough place to play, which we've heard from Mike Shildt during the Ben and Woods show as well. So we'll talk about the other 3 takeaways that we haven't gotten to that we got from the first series against the Chicago, or the last series against the Chicago Cubs, where you don't have to play anymore. We'll also hear from Mike Shildt, who was on with Ben and Woods. Plus, coming up at 10:30, a deeper dive into the starting rotation. Seeing some numbers and some metrics that show some good signs that this rotation is not off to a fluky start. We'll talk about that later on as well, as we're just getting started on the Braden Surprenant Show on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Baseball coverage on 97 through the fans, presented by T-Mobile. Head to T-Mobile.com and get a great deal on an iPhone 16 Pro. We're going to talk more about the starting rotation when we come back, but do want to talk a little bit about what was said on Ben and Woods with Mike Shildt as we take a look of what happened earlier today. Here's what happened earlier today on the manager's report with Mike Shildt, refreshed by Eco Water SoCal. Mike Shildt, a couple of things that were very interesting. We're going to get to the contact play in just a second, but the first thing that I really want to pass along is obviously the health update of Jackson Merrill. Padres fans obviously want to see him back in the lineup. He wasn't on the plane trip to Houston, so do not expect him to play this weekend, but here's what Mike Shildt had to say about the young center fielder.
You know what? He's improving. So, I mean, hamstrings, any soft tissue stuff can be, very finicky.
Yeah.
So we got to be very careful. But and to your point, yeah, he's definitely, got his eye black on, ready to go, and hungry to go compete. But right now he's got his focus channeled in areas he can do something about, and that's his rehab. And that so he's getting to a point where he's doing some light jogging and start to get some strength back and do some things in the weight room. And we're also put together a plan for him and Lockridge and Crony. That whatever guys can do from a baseball standpoint, whether it's bunting, tracking, throwing, whatever they're able to do, they're doing in appropriate fashion. So when they get back, they're both mentally and physically ready to compete.
They're being cautious with their young players that are on the injured list that they need later in the season, just like they're doing the same thing with Yu Darvish. So again, they're like letting them come back a little bit, slowly within the process. And Jackson Merrill will be ready when he's supposed to be ready to go. So again, do not expect Jackson Merrill this weekend. I'd be shocked if they fly him out to Detroit. I would say the earliest would be when Tampa comes to town, but even then, there's no timetable yet for a return for Jackson Merrill. So that's what happened earlier today on the manager's report. Mike Shildt, refreshed by Eco Water SoCal. In terms of tonight's game and the opponent this weekend in the Houston Astros, what does Mike Shildt expect from Houston this weekend?
Expected more of the same. We're not as familiar with Houston, but we do have really, really good advanced scouting. The guys do a great job with that. We have one of the few clubs that have really good baseball guys that go out and watch teams and use their eyes. And, they also use the information that's available now that's also beneficial. And we use the information as well in tendencies and different things along those lines. But, we do our part being, our preparation work, our staff really, really dedicated to the prep work, a ton of video and research. And then, day will be spent with a lot of meetings to collaborate it all and make sure we're bringing simple and actionable things to our players, and then we'll go play baseball and look to compete and shake hands.
Baseball, like advanced scouting, is like it's fascinating to me as somebody that coaches football and like understands film and out there scouting in the stands and everything like that. And there's different rules in different leagues. Like in college football, obviously, you can't go attend games as a scout because they do film trading and everything like that. But those are the rules that are established. In baseball, I'm curious how that works out. Obviously, the scouts go to a lot of Major League Baseball games. They go out and get the the reports on all these teams that they play, and it's like they got to when they find time to analyze and break down what their next opponent's going to be. Obviously, when you play, teams in your division, you see them all the time. There's not too much. It's more of a refresher and review. But I find it fascinating on the advanced scouting when you play an American League team, you're only going to play 3 times, right? In a one-time series. When do you start looking at it? When do you start preparing? I mean, you're not always going to have an off day before you play some of these games. Like, when are they going to start? Did they prepare for Detroit too? Like, how much extra scouting do they do for Detroit's weekend series? I mean, when do they start looking at that? That's all fascinating stuff to me in Major League, especially in baseball. Like in baseball, it's just you play every single day. There's not as much like strategy breakdown as there is in football. It's more just looking at what pitchers got, what they throw. Obviously, a lot of those numbers are open to the public now on a lot of these websites, but I always find that fascinating of when they're starting to break down their next opponent. Like, when are they looking at Detroit this weekend? Are they doing that in between games? I mean, they got to be locked into the Astros games, and then you got a day off before the Rays come to town. Again, 3 American League teams in a row that you hardly ever see. So it's going to be interesting. I find it fascinating, the advanced scouting and everything like that. I like listening to explanations on some strategy things and some plays and how decisions were made and how they go about it. I was asking about the contact play after the series against Chicago at Wrigley Field. We had a local baseball coach call in to explain his logic on the contact play. But then Bennett Woods, obviously, with the contact play not being on in the loss earlier in the week against the Cubs, they asked Mike Shildt about the ins and outs of the contact play, and what was the decision that they made earlier this week on not having the contact play on against the Chicago Cubs. Very, very interesting answer from Mike Shildt.
But it's always fascinated me.
All right, give us the abridged version.
The abridged, yeah.
Well, I mean, clearly you wanted him to go.
Okay.
You did. Okay.
I did not know. I was like,
sure.
Because it tipped, I wonder if he stopped because he thought the pitcher may snare it.
The perfect tip.
It was just
right
a perfect tip. Yeah. So that's okay. Interesting. No,
I mean, I'll explain in that particular situation. You've got Diaz up. We're down a run. It's the 10th inning.
Yep.
Iglesias is a good runner. Diaz is not. We can't run for him because he's hitting for Maldonado.
Yep.
So we can't run for the catcher. He's not a stolen base threat. I don't think.
No.
Well, they did go first to third the other day. Looked pretty good.
That first to third was
done a really good job.
That was
twice.
Inspiring.
He's done it twice. So we got Toddy up, and they're probably not going to pitch to him. Okay.
Yeah.
So if he gets thrown at the plate, we've got a guy at first base that we can't run for that's not going to steal a bag. And they're not going to pitch to Toddy anyway. So we're going to have first and second. We can't steal first and second base with Diaz at second and Toddy at first.
Right.
And then so that brings Louis up to tie the game. So, if they're going to pitch to Toddy, which they didn't, we could take a shot because he can hit an extra base hit, but an extra base hit's going to be really hard for Diaz to score.
Yeah.
So why don't we just keep him at third?
Yeah.
And we create a lot of more opportunities if they do pitch to Toddy on a guy that can really run and does get infield hits, a guy that in a high leverage situation that is in the dirt a little bit, can score in a pass ball. So that's the highlights of, but it's absolutely case by case, and we can have a 5-minute discussion about every single scenario.
That was fantastic.
That was amazing.
That was great. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, good explanation on the contact play. I mean, obviously, Bennett Woods were just asking from a perspective of in general, not necessarily, questioning Mike Shildt's decision-making on that. It was obviously the right move at the time. And it's very interesting to see how they come up with those scenarios. I mean, they're thinking about that at bats before, and probably thinking about it. Same thing when they sent Iglesias in the first place to third base, kind of playing the chess match and the game within the game. I mean, this is all happening in every single pitch of a Major League Baseball game. That's why when people say baseball is boring, I go like, you don't know what's going. There's so much stuff going on in the game that you don't even realize. That's a particular thought-provoking conversation that they're having in the dugout of strategy and philosophy. So I found that very interesting. I wanted to know a little bit more about that. It makes a lot of sense why the contact play wasn't on in that particular situation. Just because if he gets gunned down at the plate, Iglesias, as mentioned before, then you got Diaz at first with 2 outs. I mean, I would imagine your chances of scoring to tie the game drop drastically compared to if he just happens to stay. And I think it's different if you got a different player over there at third base on a contact play. then you go after it. You go after it at that point in time and stay aggressive. But Padres have a very aggressive nature. Offensively, they've been humming along offensively as well. But, the starting pitching has been great. And the starting pitching has shown signs of why they can continue on. And it's not necessarily a fluke with the way they've started. And some good news about, even with Dylan Cease not getting the results, it's really the stuff over results. We'll talk more about the Padres rotation when we come back on the Braden Surprenant Show on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. 10:33 on a Friday morning. So you guys have a get ready for a big Easter weekend. I went over into the this has been I don't know. I got to get back on my grind of the eating right this week. I mean, I've been eating good in terms of like the flavor, but I have not been eating good in terms of the plan that I need to be that I need to stick to. You know, working in radio, you get a lot of free food. There's a ton of free food in radio. And I know Adam Klug's been tempted all week with a lot of different food that he may or may not be allowed to have this week. And I'm not going to out him on whether or not he has consumed or has not consumed said food. I know, to a certain extent. But this week was a lot of food at the radio station. Nate Taylor with the smoked meat. Yeah, smoked meat. And we'll be doing that on Saturday. But that being said, so we have, every Thursday we have Roundtable Pizza. It's a lot of pizza. It's good stuff. And we had a going away party for one of our sales execs here. And they had pizza on Tuesday. So Tuesday there was pizza. Thursday there was pizza. Wednesday, Adam and I went to Craft Taco up in Sereno Valley for lunch, and got to meet the great people at Craft Taco. One of the best tacos I've had in my experience here in San Diego. So you got to check that place out for sure. But loaded up on Craft Taco on Wednesday. So that's pizza, free pizza on Tuesday, free pizza on Wednesday, or tacos on Wednesday, free pizza on Thursday. At USD, they feed us I didn't have any of the pizza on Thursday. I mean, it's just a lot of pizza. But yesterday, I look at, while we have pizza in the conference room or area because of Roundtable, there's donuts that were brought in. And the remnants of the donuts are still there in the kitchen. The kitchen smells like a donut shop because they've been sitting there for almost 24 hours. And now there's like chunks all over the place. And so you can smell like the icing. When you walk into a donut shop, you can smell like the icing that they put on donuts. That distinctive donut shop smell. That's what it smells like right now in the kitchen as I'm going to get my morning coffee. It smells like donuts in there. It reminds me of, that smell is unique to me. That smell, that like donut icing smell that you walk into when you go to like a classic donut shop. Like I'm talking like a Rose's Donut. I'm talking of, Miss Donut out in East County, out in Casa de Oro area. I'm talking about Winchell's. I mean, I'm talking about all those, Sunny Donuts, all those classic donut spots that seem to be open almost 24 hours a day. Not like the Krispy Kremes of the world, but like, what that smells like. You know what those kind of places smell like. They all kind of look the same too. You walk in, glass case. Yeah, I'll take 2 of those, 3 of those, 2 of those. How many got left? How many got left? You always got to ask how many got left. It's not like you're counting yourself. And you're just like, oh yeah, pay 2 more of those. Yeah, get another one of those. Get a raised glaze, and we're out. That's the type of place I'm talking about. So when I walk into the conference, it smells like a donut shop. And when I smell that sugary donut shop smell, it smells like black coffee and it smells like icing. That's what it smells like. So when I have that smell, I immediately think of Saturday mornings after staying over at my grandparents' house in Casa de Oro on my mom's side of the family. My mom's side of the family, they used to get donuts as kids all the time. And my grandfather would drive either my mom down or my uncle down in his truck. And they'd go down to that main street in Casa de Oro. I forget what it's San Vicente. I forget the main drag down in Casa de Oro over by Santa Sofia Church. I used to go down to that Miss Donut shop. Now, I don't know if it's always been called Miss Donut or not. But they used to do that when they were kids. And when I used to sleep over my grandparents' house on weekends every once in a while, that's what we would do. Yeah, I think it's Campo Road. I'm not mistaken. I don't know off the top of my head. I'd have to look it up. We'd go down to Miss Donut, and we'd go, and my grandfather would let us pick out donuts, and we'd get like a dozen for everybody. And usually, as the oldest of the 3 kids in my particular family, I was the one up early, ready to go because I wanted to go get donuts. And so I'd drive with my grandfather down to the main drag in Casa de Oro, down to Miss Donut, and pick out the donuts. And I knew what everybody liked, donut-wise. I knew what my grandmother liked. I knew what I liked. I knew what my brother and my sister liked. And then we had this, it has since broke, but my grandmother had this like old antique serving dish that had like a big plate on the bottom, a middle plate that was like medium size, and a top plate. And we would put all the donuts on the stacked serving dish and then get at it on a Saturday. So when I smelt that in there, I was like, brings back memories. And then I was like, should I have some? And the reality was, no, I should not have some. I've already had enough pizza to last me a lifetime this week, and the craft taco and everything like that. I'm going to Disneyland on Sunday. That's not going to be very good eating. But the other thing, I'm not saying I was disciplined, because the donuts they had were like the super gourmet ones. I'm not about that. I'm not about the super gourmet donuts. I've talked about this before on the show. I'm talking about like the new fancy donuts that you see on Instagram and everything like that. For like, they got like Oreos on top, and they're gigantic and they look like a Easter bunny, and it's just all sugar and like thick dough. Like, no, thank you. I like the classic, the Roses donuts, Donut Touch, Miss Donut. We used to go to Winchell's sometimes. We got up early enough to go to school, and I had to make the long drive on Pomerado Road, which is just station to station driving in the morning to get to St. Michael's. We'd pass the Winchell's Donuts in Poway on Scripps, Pomerado Road and Poway Road. That's not even there anymore, but those are the type of places I'm talking about. So for anybody that just, wasn't thinking about it, but, wanting to ruin your weekend by going to a donut shop and just eating your donuts now, go ahead. I hope that's the case. But old-fashioned donuts, my grandmother loved the old-fashioned. I prefer, and here's I get made fun of a lot. I don't mind. I wear it. But huge sprinkle guy. Donut for me, got to have a cake donut, icing, and sprinkles. I'll eat that. If that was sitting in the conference room, I would have gotten that already. Yeah, Sandy is right. The Weight Watchers was next door to the Winchell's in Poway. The Winchell's is no longer there. I don't know if the Weight Watchers is there or not. So that's my donut diatribe. That's what sparked the memory when I went in there. So again, more free food here at the station. We love it. I appreciate it all the time. The donuts can't, especially the super fancy ones, can't do it. From donuts to throwing up zeros on the scoreboard, Padres starting pitching has been electric. They're off to a stunning 15-4 start. The Padres are leading MLB in both record and run differential, a performance few expected, especially given concerns about their starting rotation. As the season's second homestand concludes, the rotation's identity is becoming a lot more clear. Our anonymous writer, who goes by Arquis and Fracco, Dylan from Letters to AJ, put out a great in-depth article about the starting pitching and looking at a lot of the advanced metrics on why the pitching is very sustainable, and basically broke out the pitchers in tiers based on some of the things that he has seen from the analytics. That's the game within the game. And starting with Michael King. Michael King has been gross. I mean, he has been gross so far to start the year. He's pitched like a Cy Young contender. He's really enhanced his four-seam fastball. And I'm going to talk about that in a second. That was pointed out by Dylan from Letters to AJ. And he's really utilized that changeup. I mean, for Michael King, I mean, the changeup that he has used has been disgusting. He talks more about the fastball, but I went to the game on Sunday, and there was at least, and granted, it was against the Rockies, but 2 or 3 times while I was watching the game and taking notes, one of the mesmerizing pitches that just caught the Rockies off guard was Michael King's changeup and his ability to use that changeup. I started using it a lot more with a little bit more break on it. I mean, every time it looked like a silly swing and the pitch looked absolutely disgusting. I was like, I had to look up, see what they identified the pitch as, because it's hard to see from my vantage point. Changeup every time. But it's not just the changeup. Michael King's fastball has drastically improved on his vertical break. Now, here's what you need to know about vertical break. Kevin Acee wrote this in one of his newsletters earlier in the week, and Dylan from Letters to AJ also kind of explained it a little bit. But Michael King using that vertical break, what vertical break means is if you could get a vertical break close to 18 on the scale, and anything higher than 18, I mean, you're playing with some legit stuff. And what vertical break is vertical break is the pitch giving the illusion that it is rising for the batter. And what that means is it looks like the pitch is moving, more towards the eyes, and so the batter can't really the batter is missing in the wrong spot. But Michael King has improved his vertical break from a 15 to a 17.6, and he's using that fastball that really makes it a disgusting pitch. He showed some highlights on there of what he used to do to what he's doing now, and it's pretty impressive for Michael King. And what Dylan from Letters to AJ pointed out, and I agree with, if King simply pitches the way he has through his first 4 starts, he'll contend for the Cy Young. I mean, some elite pitch movement out of his fastball. That leads to Dylan Cease. Now, Cease has had a rougher start to the year, largely due to a poor outing against the A's in Sacramento, which he gave up 9 runs on 8 hits. And we talked about the inconsistencies of Dylan Cease. But aside from the one disastrous outing versus the A's, if you look at his numbers from last year to this year, from his age 28 season to his age 29 season, they're pretty much the same. So just looking at the last 2 years, if you look at his ERA, it's obviously way higher this year, again, accounting for the bad outing. His fielding independent pitching is better this year than it was last year, to 2.96. His whip is a little higher, obviously, with the hits in Sacramento. His hit per 9 is a 10.6 compared to the 6.5 hits per 9 innings that he was allowing last season. But if you look at his home runs per 9 innings, his walks per 9 innings, his strikeout per 9 innings, and his strikeout to walk ratio, they are the exact same numbers as last season when Dylan Cease had a really good year for the San Diego Padres. His hits, his home runs per 9 is at a 0.9. His walks per 9 are both at a 3.1 from last year to this year. His strikeouts per 9, also the same at 10.6. 10.6 in 2024, 10.6 in 2025. His strikeout per walk ratio is a 3.45 last year, a 3.43 this year. The only big difference is his hits per 9, which includes the disastrous first inning against the A's, in which Cease gave up 6 hits, including 4 singles, all with an exit velo under 78 miles an hour, which means they're not hitting him very hard. It's not like he's giving up hard contact and getting absolutely shelled. So when you look at that underperformance so far to Dylan Cease, as mentioned, the weakest link in the Padres rotation, his underperformance looks more like a small sample size than really he's getting shelled and it's not that great of it. He's done. I think he's going to be fine. I think with the swing and miss stuff that Dylan Cease has, he's eventually going to turn it around. And I wouldn't be surprised if he starts doing that on Sunday against a team that's not very good offensively. I mean, it'd been a very inconsistent team, the Houston Astros. So that's kind of the category of Cy Young group, or the ace level group, is King and Cease. And I think a good 1-2 punch with those guys is going to pay dividends for the Padres. I think you're going to see Dylan Cease starting to turn around. Now, your question marks are Kyle Hart, Nick Pivetta, and Randy Vásquez. You look at Kyle Hart. Kyle Hart, KBO standout, had a rocky debut, but has shown promise by mixing location, deception. He sequenced his pitches in a recent strong outing, and his sweeper is his best pitch. His sweeper was his best pitch in spring training. His sweeper is his best weapon now. That's just going to be his best option in general. And Letters to AJ put in a full breakdown of an at-bat versus Sean Bouchard, using that sinker and his sweeper and locating and how he has been able to be successful, as well as his changeup. But again, there's not a lot of margin for error. And when he doesn't locate, you get the outings that you saw against the Chicago Cubs with a team that will not swing at his stuff out of the zone. It's very hard for a pitcher with an 89 and 90 mile an hour fastball to be effective, but there's at least a chance that Hart might reach success at the major league level. He's not going to be an ace, but he doesn't have to be to help the Padres bank enough wins to survive to the postseason. He does have the slimmest margin of error of any pitcher on the staff until Waldron is back. His starts are going to be a high wire act, according to Dylan from Letters to AJ. That moves on to Nick Pivetta in the starting rotation. Elite stuff, but a middling track record. I think a lot of the play that Nick Pivetta has is really going to benefit him at Petco Park. He's got an early dominance in 2025 at Petco's pitcher-friendly environment, and it really could unlock a new version of him. The intrigue around whether he's finally turning the corner will remain to be seen, but if you start looking at a lot of his metrics too, he has continued to lower his walks per nine. In 2021, it was a 3.8. In 2022, it was a 3.7. 2023 was a 3.2. And in 2024, it was a 3.2. His strikeouts per nine have risen over those years. But Nick Pivetta has been really good for the Padres so far. One of the reasons for his very home run prone, one of the reasons for this is he's very home run prone for the, his ERA being high. In 2024, he gave up 1.7 home runs per 9 innings, a mark that tied for the major league worst among starters. And for his career, he's at a mediocre 1.5 home runs per 9. And it could be that it's just a matter of time before this side of him comes out and a sterling 1.57 ERA is put up through his first 4 starts as a Padre regresses. But there is something to consider, as Letters to AJ points out. Pivetta has played his entire career with only the Phillies and Red Sox. If you've ever lived in Philly or Boston, you'll undoubtedly remember an unbelievably hot and humid summer nights that span most of the baseball season. There's these atmospheric conditions have measurable effects on the flight of the baseball, and there's a bit of evidence this might have plagued Pivetta in the past. Here is career home and away splits for home runs per 9 innings. At Citizens Bank Park in Fenway, he's got a 1.62 home runs per 9. And at all other ballparks, it's down to a 1.4. Pivetta has always been a fly ball pitcher, and he will continue to be, but there's no doubt that playing home games at Petco will have some effect on those fly balls. He's a case study going into the season. And I totally agree. I think that's a big reason why Nick Pivetta is going to have a good year in a Padres uniform. I mean, if you are a guy that is a strikeout, if you are a pitcher that is a home run level pitcher, fly ball pitcher, and you're pitching in Citizens Bank Park and other ballparks, it's not going to end well for you. But when you're pitching at the very thick air of Petco Park and the damp air of Petco Park and the pitcher's friendly ballpark of Petco Park, you're going to have some elite stuff. Randy Vásquez is the interesting one. And Dylan from Letters to AJ laid out an entire excerpt on Randy Vásquez before this particular piece on the starting rotation. And he's getting the results, but not necessarily having the stuff in terms of swing and miss. He does seem to be the biggest mystery. Despite excellent results in 4 starts, his success lacks a clear explanation, making him a wild card in the rotation. But at this point, you're going to continue to take the results. I do think Randy Vásquez is due for a somewhat of a bad outing coming up. I mean, I don't think he's what he is at right now with the metrics that he has, and his swing and miss stuff, which is not a lot, will continue to be throughout the season. But you got to roll with Randy Vásquez and really appreciate what he has done. I mean, as long as he keeps getting the results, there's not a lot to fear. But I think in the back of your mind, when Randy Vásquez pitches, that he might be due for an upsetting outing in which he does get hit around the yard. And that might be coming sooner rather than later. But that being said, he has done a great job, and he's doing his job right now at least until Yu Darvish can get back and some of the other depth pieces for the San Diego Padres. In all, the Padres rotation, despite early injuries, have exceeded expectations, I would think. There's still depth concerns, obviously. If they have another pitcher go down, they're going to be in kind of a problem. But there's also depth concerns with the team in general, with some of the injuries that they've had. But the team's resilience and some potential breakout performances suggest this strong start might be more than just a fluke. You're getting the starting pitching. You're getting elite play out of your elite players. You got the bullpen in hand. Still a long season to go, but the rotation is showing early signs of being a legitimate strength for the San Diego Padres team in 2025. Again, if you want to look at the deeper dive of the numbers, and a lot of numbers that would bore you if you listen to it, but if you want to go out and read it, it's at Letters to AJ on a Substack. If you Google Letters to AJ, you can pull it up. Very interesting stuff. He goes into more details about every pitch that these guys have and some advanced metrics that really show that it's not really a fluke. It's more of a you might be experiencing some serious play out of the San Diego Padres starting rotation. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. When we come back on the Braden Surprenant Show, we'll get you a quick Aztec football update. They do have a AztecFAST showcase coming up tomorrow, but little concerning that their season tickets are down 33% from this time last year. It's continuing to dwindle a little bit. We got some other updates at Snapdragon Stadium, plus some spring ball updates for you for Aztecs football. AztecFAST when we come back on the Braden Surprenant Show. San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. 11 o'clock. Kind of transitioning into some Aztec football, which they have a big event tomorrow for anybody interested in going at Snapdragon Stadium. AztecFAST Showcase, free admission, but you must claim your tickets online. It is $10 to park. Gates open at noon. Event from 1 to 3. Coming up tomorrow features a skills competition format, 14-player teams, not a traditional scrimmage. I'll explain more of that in just a little bit. But I do want to dive into some Aztec football. But I do want to get to your phone calls, too. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. I'm assuming, Adam, that Tim wants to talk about Padres stuff. Okay, well, we're going to do that before we dive into the Aztec football. Tim, my advanced scouts from Miramar. What's going on, man?
Happy Good Friday, my brother.
That's right. How we doing?
No eating meat. No eating meat today.
That's right. This is my last day of not being able to eat meat. But I'll be devouring a brisket tomorrow. I can't eat meat, but I'm preparing the brisket today. We're throwing it on the smoker later today. I prepped it last night, Tim. So the no meat today. I'll indulge in some brisket tomorrow instead.
Wow, you're old school. Good for you, man. All right. Hey, unfortunately, I missed the roundtable yesterday and your show, so I may be discussing stuff we already talked about, but let me add my 2.5 cents real quick.
All right.
Fernando Tatis Jr. He's a very unique cat at the top of the batting order. Would you agree with that?
Can you repeat that real quick? You would agree that
Fernando Tatis? Yeah. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah, I got you. I just missed it a little bit. Would you say Fernando Tatis? Where? You say batting leadoff?
At the top of the
Yes.
batting leadoff. I mean,
Correct.
he's a very unique individual. I don't think there's another team in baseball that can say they have a guy like him at the top of the order, right?
Correct. I would say so.
Okay. So Fun the Show the other day had a different guy batting ninth, Wade, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it worked out super well. And I just think if they're going to keep Tatis at the top of the order, whether it's Wade or Iglesias or somebody else in that spot, I think they should continue doing that and not bat Diaz or Maldonado in the ninth spot. I think it makes no sense to have a guy like that who's going to clog up the bases, can't go first to third, steal a base in front of Fernando. What do you think?
I don't mind that, and I appreciate the phone call, Tim. If I was making a lineup, I like, and I think it's personal preference. If you don't have a pitcher having to hit, which nobody does anymore in baseball, I like putting the worst hitter at 8 and then more of a faster guy at 9. So if Tyler Wade's going to play, he's obviously not one of the better hitters on the Padres in comparison. Him batting 9th to me makes a lot of sense because he can run and all that stuff. Like Brandon Lockridge. Like with Brandon Lockridge in the lineup, I'd probably rather have him bat 9th too than Martín Maldonado or Elias Diaz. Obviously, it's different preferences, and there's multiple ways to skin a cat, right? So the Padres obviously want to have their better players getting up more times than some of their other ones in terms of the offense, and they don't mind the catching position in the 9th spot. If you flip flop that, I'd prefer it. That was kind of like when you had Trent Grisham batting 9th and Jerickson Profar batting 9th in the 2020, 2022 kind of years. Against certain teams, I think that really led to that second leadoff spot. That I do like that, Tim, but I think again it's personal preference. What they're doing right now is fine. I don't need to see him mix up the lineup too many times. I love Fernando batting leadoff. I will say that, but in the number 9 spot, yeah, I'd agree. Tyler Wade probably all right. Transition to Aztec football. Because I already know I got somebody on hold that wants to talk Aztec football. And anytime I bring up Aztec football, he's on it to call in. So we're going to get to him in a second. But here's the latest report from Kirk Kenney, the San Diego Union-Tribune. San Diego State football season tickets are down 33% from this time last year, with only 5,426 sold so far, compared to 8,152 in mid-April. So 5,426 season tickets sold so far, compared to the 8,152 season tickets in mid-April 2024. The drop comes despite early renewal availability and no increase in ticket prices. Even staying the same, it's still very expensive. San Diego State's 2024 total in terms of season tickets sold was 8,755, meaning the school needs to sell over 3,000 more tickets, season tickets, to surpass that mark. San Diego State Deputy AD A.O. Taylor Dixon acknowledged the slow pace, saying the school is, quote, not satisfied and plans a more community and pride-driven marketing push starting mid-May based on the team's, quote, earn your colors theme. A major sales event is planned for this Saturday's AztecFAST showcase, where nearly 100 prospects will experience Snapdragon Stadium's firsthand. In that showcase, of course, free admission, as I mentioned before, $10 parking, gates open at noon, event starts at 1. It's going to look more like the Pro Bowl skills competition. 14-player teams, not a traditional scrimmage. They will do a 7-on-7 session and autograph signing at the end. Red shirt and that's kind of the latest with the AztecFAST showcase. Now, in terms of season tickets, in 2022, when the stadium first opened, they had 15,973 season tickets sold. In 2023, it was 10,718 tickets. In 2024, it was 8,755 tickets. 2025 season tickets cost $200 to $1,200 with an additional stadium enhancement gift of $100 to $1,500 for new buyers. Season opener is August 28th against Stony Brook. There's a lot of problems with Aztec football. I don't think the head coach is one of the problems. I think you got to give him a little bit of time. I like what he does as a high school football coach here in town. I really appreciate a guy like Sean Lewis. The way that he is taking care of the guys that used to play for us in particular has been great. And I think he does a really good job. I think the staff does a good job. I think they got to be able to turn things around a lot quicker, though. Last year, I mean, they invested all this time into a freshman quarterback, and then the kid gets up and leaves, which is his right, his prerogative, and now they got to start over again. And so when you're trying to build, it's hard. I mean, it would have been interesting to see San Diego State's quarterback from last year come back again this year, but the guy gets up and leaves in the biggest thing, and almost like an insult. I mean, he went to Sean Lewis's school that he went to, Wisconsin. And so he goes out there and leaves, and he's never going to play for the Wisconsin Badgers. I know he wants to be closer to home. He probably got a little bit of a paycheck increase, but you know what? You invested all this time in the quarterback and Danny O'Neill, and now he's gone. So that's a waste of a season. Now you got to start over again. So we'll see what happens with San Diego State football, but this is a problem because the Aztecs in the next couple of years, up until about 2030, need to be able to play good football and get people to go to games for their next conference realignment moves. Otherwise, that entire school is going to get left behind. And it will be an academic-only institution. So this is a very pivotal year for Aztec football. But a couple of things on the season tickets. I mean, I think, for what they're charging for season tickets for the Aztecs is not worth the product that you watch, regardless if it's the Aztecs or whoever comes in to play them. And a lot of that's out of their control. I mean, you're not going to sign Oklahoma up too many times to come here. And I wouldn't be surprised if Oklahoma bails on one of those games that's scheduled to play in the next 5 years. But I pay less for my season tickets for TCU football than a lot of people I know pay for San Diego State season tickets. And at TCU football, a team that was just in the college football playoff not too long ago that plays against other Power 4 opponents, you get what's worth in the price of admission. I think Snapdragon Stadium is a great stadium. I think they did a great job with it. It's a little small, but with the food being expensive and the tickets being expensive and the product not being like a professional league product with professional league prices, it's going to be hard to get people to go to games or commit to season tickets when you got to watch Nevada Reno come to town and UNLV and a bunch of teams in the Mountain West that are not competing for a college football playoff spot. I mean, I don't want to pay $100 to watch San Diego State play Stony Brook. And so the model, I think, for the Aztecs needs to change in the sense of, and I understand they got to pay off the stadium, and they made a big investment in the stadium. They're trying to make their money back, but I almost feel like the Aztecs tried to build Petco Park in a day instead of just slowly building like Petco did. I mean, people will start showing up, and you can start raising the prices if the team is good and it's affordable and you get people in the door. You got to get people in the door right now. I don't have any interest in watching the Aztecs play Stony Brook for $100. I don't. I mean, I don't think most people do. Not when I can watch TCU play anybody in the Big 12 for $60. So the prices got to come down with tickets, or like you got to have some type of loss leader in there to get people to go and get young people to go and get some kids to go to games. I mean, the no shade thing, that's tired. No shade sucks, but at the same time, there's not a single college football stadium that's got a bunch of shade. But remember, everything changes when they go to the Pac-12. It's all going to change. Because instead of Fresno State coming to town, it's going to be Fresno State coming to town. It's literally the exact same conference. But you know what? Instead of getting $5 million of payout, or maybe $1 million of payout for the TV contract, we're going to get $7 million of payout. Oh, $7 million. Okay. It's not much better. I don't know what San Diego State is expecting people to pay for their stadium, but if you want to get people to go to games, you're going to have to take a hit a little bit business-wise and make tickets either more affordable or make the food affordable. And here's the thing. You brought in a bunch of vendors from outside of San Diego State, a lot of local establishments. Great. But in order for them to make money and you to make money, the prices have to be expensive. You either pull an Atlanta Falcons and make everything super cheap food-wise and make up for it in tickets, or you get people in the building for almost nothing and make your money back on gear, tickets, and everything else like that. You got to get people in there. You got to give people a reason to go to Aztec football games. Now, the good news is they're finally starting to build this summer. It won't be ready for a little bit longer, but they own the land. They're finally going to start building all the retail and some of the apartment complexes and everything that they're putting in around Snapdragon Stadium. That's where you really make your money on the land. And then you guys got to get people in the building. Jake Waters in the chat. Tickets for Minnesota Golden Gophers home games are a third of what San Diego State is, and the food and drink prices are half. I understand that San Diego State is in San Diego, California, but I don't know how you're going to convince people that, and a lot of transplants live here, to buy into Aztec football for the product that they have on the field, for the prices that they have, when they come from other places that pay way less to watch Power 4 football. It's dirt cheap to go to a lot of these games in a lot of different places. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. I know I got a caller waiting on hold that wants to talk about the Aztecs. We're going to get to him when we come back on the Braden Surprenant Show on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. 19 on a Friday morning, getting you ready for Padres baseball over the weekend. Talking some Aztec football. They got a big event tomorrow. As they will do, instead of a spring game, they're doing a little bit of a showcase. They're going to call it AztecFAST Showcase, coming up on Saturday. Free admission. Parking's $10. Gates open at noon. Events from 1 to 3. Go out and check out the Aztecs football team. It'll be your last chance to check them out before the obviously they start getting ready for fall camp and everything like that in the summertime. And then it'll be their season opener on August 28th against Stony Brook. But we're talking about how, in the article with Kurt Kenny on the San Diego Union Tribune today, the Aztecs season ticket sales are down 33% from this time last year, with only 5,426 tickets sold so far, compared to 8,152 in mid-April of 2024. Their season tickets have dropped from 15,900 season tickets to 10,718 season tickets to 8,755 season tickets, and now they're down to 5,426. It continues to decline. San Diego State obviously has a massive problem on their hands, and got a lot to compete with now in town in San Diego, but they got to find a way to get people in the building. And right now, with the way that the way that they're playing the product on the field, it's not very good, especially with the prices. Let's get out to the phones. I know Kevin in Chula Vista wants to weigh on Aztec football. Kevin, as an alumni, I know this is probably tough news for you, trying to see this program do anything, but what do you got for me today?
I don't know where to start, Braden, honestly. I'm a little bit older than you. I grew up here in San Diego, too. I was at State from 76 and graduated in 80. So I've seen it all practically, Coryell years, all of it. And, like I said, I don't know where to start with this. This gimmick that they're employing lately with this AztecFAST, I keep saying, how about first being Aztec competent and get your act together on the field, understand you're going through transition. I get all of that. But for God's sakes, when you come out with these slick promotions that you can't live up to, it's called promising a lot and failing to deliver. You've got a marketing problem. You don't have marketable players. You don't have a marketable league. This whole gimmick about the fraudulent Pac-12, it's not the Pac-12. Please don't insult us by saying you're in the Pac-12. That is a dead, gone, bygone league. Call it whatever else you want. It's not the Pac-12. Stop it. Stop it. You've got to get some reality into your heads and figure out, why didn't you do a marketing survey with your people, the people that support you, and figure out whether or not Washington State and Oregon State people even care about? We don't. They were the low end of a league that dissolved. And to sit there and say that they're going to give us some type of attraction that was better than the Mountain West, and now you're having to poach what's left of the Mountain West to make a league because there's no other schools, and you're coming up with what, Texas State? I mean, this is a debacle. It's a debacle of mammoth proportions of overestimating and doing everything out there in a wig and a prayer instead of common sense. How much, Braden?
That Big 12 half share looks pretty damn good right now, doesn't it, Kevin?
Doesn't it? But here's my question for you. Again, I maybe you've told us. I know you've told us this, but I have forgotten. What is the exit fee that the Aztec San Diego State owes the Mountain West, and who's going to pay for that?
I think it was like it wasn't a ton. They had to wait at a certain point, and then it wasn't as much as long as they announced it before. I want to say it's less than $10 million. But still, for San Diego State, that's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money for us. And so now you've got the problem of the nil. And I understand, I get it. But this is not a deep pockets town. You don't have big corporations here that are going to be big donors.
And the ones that you do have are spending their money with the Padres. So you're already competing with other entities. Right,
exactly. And so they're in a hell of a pickle, because you're telling us, the season ticket holders, the alumni, the students, that now you have to pay $1 million to $2 million a year for a bunch of 18-year-old, 19-year-old kids that make no commitment to the school. It's a 1-year and out deal, right? For a lot of them. And every single year, now we've got to pay to put a football team on. And we haven't gotten to basketball yet, right?
And I'd rather spend the money on basketball.
Right. So we're at a collapse point here where the goose that laid the golden egg is no longer available here. And, you know, I don't know what their answer is at this point. I don't see, short of Sean Lewis pulling rabbits out of his hat and coming up with a 10-1 team that all of a sudden produces the next Marshall Falk, Darnay Scott, and Will Blackwell Asakeem, which, by the way, that was, in my opinion, the zenith of San Diego State, when you had name players that, as a fan, you would pay money to go see. I don't know who any of these people are at San Diego State, and I haven't for years.
The only players that I know, Kevin, and I appreciate the phone call because I keep rolling, are obviously the guys that I coached. I mean, and I'm rooting for Lucky Sutton and Tana Latuli and some of those guys, a lot of the local San Diego kids. And, you know, there's different ways that they could be able to be competitive, you know, and they have to do what a lot of other schools like them do. And that's, and a lot of programs in town are doing that. And that's living in the transfer portal with local kids that didn't pan out at power schools that are looking for a new place to play. That's where they have to really make their hay. And they're trying to do that as much as they can. But, I mean, that's just what happens. I mean, some of the best talent in San Diego goes to Power 4 schools, doesn't work out. They need a new place to play. That's where you could probably make up some ground, you know, getting guys with a chip on their shoulder. But then, again, you have to know that they're probably going to be there a year. You know, the Marcus Ratcliffe of the world that were there a year, and then Texas A&M came knocking and gave him an offer he couldn't refuse, and he's out. There's over 10,000 kids in the transfer portal right now for football. Over 10,000 kids in the transfer portal for football. And most of them won't even find a team. I'm not talking about a D1 team. I mean a team. They're just transferring their way out of college football, which is also insanity. But it goes back to what we were preaching about 2-3 years ago. Do whatever it takes to get into a power conference, whatever power conference it may be, and forever how much money it may be, get on one of the life crafts off of this sinking ship that the group of 5 is currently on. And with San Diego State, that is probably they're watching everybody else on the life rafts go away as they try to continue to move up the ship that is continuing to sink. I don't know what the Aztecs are going to do. Their football program, it's not looking good right now when it comes to a lot of things. And again, I think most of the problems are out of Sean Lewis and company's control. Football coaches will always preach, we got to control the controllables. You know what's not a controllable? What conference they're in, all that stuff. That is strictly for the president of the school and the athletic department of the school to handle. Sean Lewis has to try to put out a fun product as much as he can to try to get people's attention. But you know what's not going to get people there? How much money you're charging for tickets and everything else. That's just, and I understand, I get they're probably trying to make money up for the stadium that they built. But I was just telling this story off air. But, you know, there was a couple of years ago where they played Idaho State at home early in the season. My parents have season tickets. My dad's got season tickets to support the program. He got a questionnaire about conference realignment stuff. He basically said, I don't know why we're not trying to get into the Big 12 or anything else that's not this sinking ship that is the Pac-12. He sniffed through the gaslighting from San Diego State. But they had a game against Idaho State. My parents are going to the game. I was supposed to have an event at USD. It got canceled, and it was too late to get a credential, and I wanted to join them for the game. And looking at tickets to get into the game against Idaho State was over $100. I'm not paying that to go to watch them play the Bengals of Idaho State. I don't care if the game's good or not. They're playing Idaho State. I should never have to pay $100 to watch San Diego State play Idaho State in football when USC and UCLA up the road, I can get into the building for less than $100, and they're playing somebody really good or a team that I know. They got a lot of problems on their hands. I mean, this is going to continue to go down in season tickets, especially with all the competition that they have now. Just, not even in town, but just in their own stadium. They can't rely on the stadium being brand new for being like, oh, yeah, I'm going to drop $200 to go to a game. No, they could do that with MLS. They could do that with the Wave. They could do that with all the other tenants that they have at Snapdragon Stadium. People will pay top dollar to watch Fernando Tatis Jr. swing the bat. They're not going to do it to watch San Diego State play whoever. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. We do have time to take one more caller before we have to get to break and bring Brandon Scott on the air. And a good caller we had a long time, Martin and Santee. Martin, you're on the Braden Surprenant show. What's going on, man?
Braden, how are you?
I'm doing well.
It's good to talk to you. Just about the AztecFAST, to me, I was an offensive lineman in college, and just there is nothing fast, and just the discipline. It just like was a game that was unwatchable. Cost, yeah, it was high, but it was just tough to watch them play. Penalties after penalty, and shooting themselves in the foot. And you being a coach, is it more difficult to coach now? When you're getting the portal changes, or if people don't like coaching decisions, they can leave. What can they do to kind of instill a little, maybe, I think, discipline, just to make those stupid mistakes? Anyway, great show as always. Appreciate your take on the Aztecs. Prices, great stadium. Just a tough watch.
Yeah, it was a tough watch. Martin, I appreciate the phone call. I mean, it's tough as a coach right now. It is. You just have to know, and it's a tough battle. You're trying to keep a lot of great players as part of your organization and part of your team. And this is at all levels. And sometimes you go against what you built as a program to keep some of these players. And that's where you start to go awry. You allow the lack of discipline because if you discipline these guys or whatever, they're going to leave. You know what? You got to let them leave. You have to have the buy-in from everybody in your team. And the programs that are good at doing that don't lose a lot of kids in the portal. There's a couple programs in town that are non-football that can do that. I think it's a tough ask right now for Sean Lewis and company, everything that they're doing. It's a tough ask. It's hard to be a college football coach right now. I deal with that at the high school level with players leaving all the time and going and coming, trying to find the best deal. I mean, we're talking about high school football. It's the same stuff. Now, they're not getting paid, but they're like, they're trying to find the best place, and, they don't like the way it is. We're going to the next school, and they just let the transfers run rampant in CIF all the time, too, just like it is in college. I mean, it's crazy. But you have to, if you build the culture right, the kids that you want in your program, even though they might not be as talented, those are the ones that are going to help build you into a winner and a success. So maybe that's the route that San Diego State's got to go. I believe in Sean Lewis. I'm not going to not believe in him after 1 year. And a lot of things are a lot of there's a lot of problems out there that he can't even control. But interesting topic of discussion. We'll try to talk more Aztec football throughout the summer as big news comes out and everything like that. But when we come back, Brandon Scott from Houston, he works for Audacy and also for the Houston Chronicle. He's going to give us a preview of the Astros and Padres series. He comes up next on the Braden Surprenant Show on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. This hour 97 through the fan is brought to you by Robert Half. At Robert Half, we found that 67% of companies want to increase contract talent. That's why our recruiters' expertise in award-winning AI work quickly to find the skilled candidates you want. At Robert Half, we know talent. Visit roberthalf.com/talent today. Padres started a 3-game series tonight in Texas, down in Houston against the Houston Astros. Should be a fun 3-game series. Tonight's game at 5:10 on your local stations that you usually watch and, of course, listen to right here on 97 through the fan. Game on Fox Sports 1 on Saturday, and Sunday Night Baseball on Sunday. Should be a fun series between the Padres and the Astros. And joining me now is our friend of the show down in Houston, Brandon Scott. Works the weekend wrap and 713 newsletters for Houston Chronicle. He's a utility player for Audacy, fills in a lot of different roles down there at Sports Radio 610 in Houston. He's a good friend of mine, been able to meet him a couple of times, at the Army-Navy game and everything like that. It's always great having Brandon on the show. Brandon, what's going on? How's your Friday going, man?
Friday so far, so good. Glad to be on with you, Braden. Thanks for having me on. And you mentioned that they're going to have a good time, or it should be a good series or a fun series. I hope it is. I trust you guys to hold up y'all's end of the bargain. The Padres, we understand how good y'all have been this year. But the Astros, not exactly the most fun watch or the best team that they've been over the last few years.
Yeah, it sounds like they have some potential in the lineup, but they're really not producing. Christian Walker's been a little disappointing to start the season. You go through the batting order for the Astros, not saying that same punch that you've seen from those World Series championship teams. Obviously, losing Bregman was a big deal, but it seems like the biggest problem has been the batting order for the Houston Astros and that offense, or should I say, lack thereof.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Christian Walker, and you think about the guys that they brought in, Christian Walker, Isaac Paredes. These were guys that were supposed to fill the void that was left from trading Kyle Tucker, from losing Alex Bregman in free agency, and obviously Isaac Paredes comes over from the Kyle Tucker trade with the Cubs. But it's not just them, Braden, man. It's Yordan Alvarez, who's gotten off to a really slow start. They, for the most part, have been Jose Altuve or bust. And a couple of anomaly games, what I'll call outlier games that you can find throughout the schedule this year. But for the most part, it's been a very quiet and dead offense for the Astros, which is not something that you're used to saying about this team.
Yeah, when talking about the Astros, I mean, a lot of those familiar faces are no longer there. With Correa obviously being gone the last couple of years, now Bregman being gone. What's been the fan mentality or the support with, Tucker not being there now, Bregman not being there, Correa, do they believe in what Jim Crane's ownership is going to be able to put together, or a little bit of being hesitant right now with some of these this retooling contender, if you will?
Well, the Astros have some built-up equity from moving on away from players and still having some success. I mean, you just rattled off a few names, and you can kind of go down the list throughout the years of guys that they've lost and still been able to maintain a certain standard and a certain level of performance. And so I think Astros fans are conditioned for that. I think the issue now is kind of just looking at it and saying, well, what about this team? I know you were able to do it before. So we've seen Correa leave. We've seen George Springer leave. And we've seen some of those guys not necessarily have the greatest careers after they're gone. But I know we've had this conversation on the radio a few times already. Is Kyle Tucker going to be the one that got away? Even though the dollar amount that he's going to end up getting is going to be somewhere way past what the Astros would ever consider doing. But should he have been the exception, right? And then Alex Bregman, of course, is somebody who signed with the Boston Red Sox on what I think we would all consider to be a fairly affordable deal that has opt-outs, and it's something that they absolutely could have done. It's not, his deal is not the Kyle Tucker deal, so you don't really have the same excuse there. So there is some kind of looking around saying, okay, are we just going to try to continue to nickel and dime our way to success, or are we going to really actually invest in some of our homegrown talent outside of when we lowball them for an extension that's well below what their market value would be, like in the case of a Yordan Alvarez, or in the case of an Alex Bregman in the first contract that he signed, or with Jose Altuve. Everybody's not going to do that deal. So there is some built-in frustration and some looking around saying, hey, what do we have now? Have we done this? Hey, we're just going to move on and have the next man up. Have we done that a little bit too much?
Brandon Scott, who joins us from Houston, utility player for Audacy in Houston, also does the weekend wrap and 713 newsletters for the Houston Chronicle, joining us on the Braden Surprenant show, getting us a preview of the Padres and the Astros. I'm going to talk about the Astros starting pitching in a little bit, but back to in terms of fan reaction and perception, and obviously not off to the best of starts. Did they get extra time with some patience from the fans just because the American League in general seems to be a wide open contest with just, not really anybody taking the reins of the league?
I think that's part of it. I think another part of it is, if you want to get even more specific and point to the American League West and say, hey, that's a division that the Astros for the most part have dominated historically, and now there's just no dominant team. Like, the Astros are now just among the teams that could possibly win that division, and it might be, if you think about it from a talent standpoint, it might actually turn out to be the most winnable division in the American League. So, to your point about the American League not necessarily having that juggernaut, at least not yet, not the one that has emerged, on top of them being in, perhaps, I know it's been the American League Central for years, but now the West is making its case for what the Central has been. Some of those teams start to develop their talent. And, let's not forget the Tigers are the ones that knocked the Astros out of the playoffs, out of the postseason last year, and they're leading that division now, and it's really competitive. So I think that is certainly part of it, man. Like, it's a competitive league and division. But also, I'd point to this. The Astros sort of did this last year, where they started off really slow and they were written off. And I can point to, I won't name them by name, of course, and your audience wouldn't know them anyway, but multiple hosts of our station had buried the Astros very early on in the season, and they were able to still rally and win a division. So it's not like it's not something that we haven't seen before with them, and it's not like it's a murderer's row of competition that they got to go through in the American League. It's not like the Dodgers or the Padres over here in the American League threatening.
Yeah, that's right. The National League West has been the top four teams in not just the National League, but in all of Major League Baseball. So we'll see what happens this weekend. Dodgers are in Texas to take on the Rangers. Padres taking on the Astros. So a couple rival battles out there in the state of Texas this weekend. I do want to talk about their starting rotation. I mean, when you look at the rotation as a whole, again, it's kind of the same plug and play as they've had with the offense, just a little bit more success out of the rotation. But I think Sunday's matchup between Dylan Cease and Framber Valdez are two pitchers that are one of the group that is got really good stuff, not getting the results early in the season, but not necessarily worried about those particular pitchers, which leads to a good matchup on Sunday. But Gusto, Wisniewski, and Valdez is what the Padres will see this weekend. What should Padres fans expect out of those three, as Wisniewski and some of the bunch for the Astros have had some pretty good outings so far this year?
Yeah, I would say the rotation for the Astros has been the bright spot of the team so far this season, and they've done pitching well for a while now, but now they're relying on it even more so than they ever have. I think it's a shame that we got to wait until Sunday just to get that matchup between Cease and Framber Valdez, who, despite the fact that they haven't necessarily gotten the results that they would expect or want so far this season, I think you'd have a hard time finding somebody that wouldn't think that those are two of the best left-handed pitchers that you'll find in all of baseball. So whether they're struggling or not, when you get those two going head-to-head, it's going to be pretty fun. But ahead of that, though, it's the mix of, at least on the Astro side, you got the back end of that rotation. And Gusto, I think it's just worth pointing out, like, you're getting Ryan Gusto, who's someone who is only really making his second start of the season and was not supposed to be a starter. He's supposed to be in their bullpen, but he's having to pitch in because of a freak injury to Spencer Arrighetti, who broke his thumb, got hit by just a random fly ball out while he was, I don't know if he was shagging balls or if they was playing catch, but it's, just a random workout freak injury. It's got him with a broken thumb, and now having to plug somebody from the bullpen into the starting rotation. And, it didn't necessarily get the results that they wanted the last time. And you can imagine that's a tough situation for somebody to be in. Now, Gusto has some starter experience, but was not stretched out in that way for this year and for this time. So you think about what the Padres have going on versus the Astros trying to piece things together with their rotation. This is certainly advantage Padres to start the series. Wisniewski has been decent. Like I mentioned, the rotation for the most part, it's right there with the top, go across the board in their stats. You're going to look top 5, top 10 and all of the important stats pitching wise. It's been the fact that they can't score runs or don't get enough hits, and that's going to be the story for the Astros. But pitching wise, it should be a formidable matchup.
Yeah, it should be fun to watch. Padres can get a lot of hits. Brandon, I appreciate the time as always. Nice little preview for us. Look forward to talking to you again later on in the year.
Hey, man, thanks for the time. Always a pleasure, man.
Brandon Scott joining us on the Braden Surprenant show. Really good dude. Really fun talking sports with him. He's got a lot of great work on and covers a lot of different things. If you want a preview on the Rockets-Warriors series, go ahead, check him out on social media at Brandon Scott on Twitter. It's time for today's sports thread.
You know that group chat, the one that's always blowing up with the biggest sports takes, debates, and breaking news?
You got barbecue back there, and you didn't invite me?
Yeah, we've got that too. Welcome to the Sports Thread, where we break down the top 5 stories in sports, just like you would with your crew.
Oh, no! Disaster! What a bad idea!
No filters, no silence, just real talk.
Bringing Adam Klug to give us the 5 trending stories in sports with today's sports thread.
Number 1.
The Orioles received some more mad news yesterday amid their slow start to the season. One of their top starters, Grayson Rodriguez, had his bullpen session that was scheduled for yesterday canceled due to a sore throwing shoulder, and he'll now get an MRI. Rodriguez has been on the injured list all season long. In addition to Rodriguez, they also have these injured starting pitchers: Kyle Bradish, Tyler Wells, Albert Suarez, and Zach Eflin. Do the Orioles feel cursed to you?
Well, they didn't go out and get starting pitching to help with their depth. So, I mean, it was only a matter of time that they were not going to run out of stuff. I mean, guys get hurt all the time. Now, that's an insane amount of injuries right there to start the season, but I think they have done it to themselves. If they went out there and loaded up on starting pitching during the offseason and traded for it, and then all those players got hurt, I would say they're cursed. I think they have done this to themselves.
Interesting.
Number 2.
And smart. The Yankees beat the Rays 6-3 yesterday. In the 7th inning, with a runner on first base and one out, Jazz Chisholm was called out looking on a pitch that was clearly a ball with a full count. Jazz argued with the home plate ump, causing him to be ejected from the game. He then took to Twitter to rip the umpire and then deleted the post. But as we all know, the internet lives forever.
Yeah, it does.
MLB has a policy against using electronic devices during games and a social media policy prohibiting players from denigrating the umpires. Do you think MLB will suspend Jazz Chisholm for his actions?
I think so. They have all the rules in place not to do about 3 things that he violated, then yes, or some type of fine maybe. Seems like baseball hands out suspensions more than fines. I would say so. Come on, man. You got to be better than that. Hold your composure as much as you can.
Number 3.
Bucks point guard Damian Lillard has been cleared of his deep vein thrombosis and taken off of blood-thinning medication. Doctors told the Bucks they've never seen anyone recover from this diagnosis as quickly as Lillard has. Dame has been ruled out for tomorrow's game against the Bucks and has no timetable in terms of his return to the court. Doc Rivers said that this was considered a career-threatening condition, but now he has a chance to return in the playoffs. Braden, do you view this as more of a sports story in terms of when Lillard returns to the court with the Bucks in the playoffs, or more of a human story with Lillard overcoming a condition that threatened his career and quicker than anyone ever has?
Definitely the human life condition at that point. I mean, that's a career threatening. I mean, that might be life threatening. I mean, that's an insane disease to have. The fact that he has overcome that so fast is also. I mean, I'd still be a little cautious with him, but again, they're not going to let him play right now. And what a great recovery for him. But it's good news because it's more than just his career at that point.
Number 4.
Sticking with the NBA playoffs, Grizzlies star Ja Morant injured his ankle late in Tuesday's play-in game against the Warriors, causing him to miss practice yesterday. He's currently a game-time decision for tonight's win-or-go-home game against the Mavericks. What kind of odds do you give Memphis of beating Dallas if Ja can't suit up?
Well, defense wins championships.
Yeah.
Right?
Thanks, Nico.
Where is the game in Memphis?
That is a terrific question. I believe it is.
Should be. Without Ja, I think they don't have great odds. With Ja, I think they win.
Games in Memphis.
Yeah. I don't know. Beale Street can be rowdy. Never know.
Number 5.
The NHL announced today that they just broke their regular season attendance record for the 3rd consecutive season. What does it tell you about the health of the sport that they've broken their regular season attendance record in 3 consecutive years?
Who is this?
The NHL.
Oh, the NHL.
In-person attendance, regular season.
I think they're growing. I think they're doing a good job. I think it was in the middle of the season, but the Four Nations Face-Off was very popular. I think it's starting to grow a little bit more, and a lot of these sports are making a lot of moves to entice the casual fan. So I think it's great news for hockey. Expand it. Give us a team in San Diego, which will never happen, but too many teams close. That's cool. I like hockey. Hockey's cool. I root for the Anaheim Ducks. They didn't make the playoffs, but they got a lot better. They've been in a major rebuild the last couple of years, but they've gotten a lot better. And the better they do, the better the San Diego Gulls do, because a lot of those guys can stay down with the Gulls instead of going up to Anaheim. 2 hours in the books, 2 hours to go. We're going to our lunchtime hour. ESPN finally get wise on something. We'll talk about it when we come back on the Braden Surprenant Show on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Lunchtime hour on a Friday. That's when you guys start clocking out. Start focusing on the weekend a little bit. Easter weekend. So hopefully you guys will spend some time with your family. We're doing that tomorrow. Making a brisket. I'm going to throw that on the smoker right after work today. Let it smoke a little bit all night. Build that bark. And then crank it a little bit in the morning. Get to the internal temperature that I would like. Wrap it, crutch it, throw it in a cooler, let it sit. Be ready to eat some brisket on Saturday. I will be posting pictures on my Instagram, Nate. I already had a couple on my story yesterday. I had to trim it up a little bit, and then I had to obviously season it. A little mustard binder, and then the seasoning on top. I've been more inclined in the brisket making to, and you could go get a nice brisket anywhere. I mean, Costco's got good ones too. I've been more inclined to trim a lot more off of it, just because we have a meat grinder now, and so like I'll trim more off. And before the meat grinder, I was a little bit hesitant because I wanted to eat as much as the deal as I could. Yes, we do have a Traeger. I'm Team Traeger. I know it's not a real smoker; it's an electric smoker, but I don't have time to sit there with wood all day. I just don't, not yet. So anyway, with the meat grinder now, I'll trim a lot off the brisket, and then I'll take all the fat, and the fat I'll put in a tray and I'll smoke the fat. It doesn't smell great, but what it does is it starts to render down into a liquid. And what you do for everybody, like beef tallow is a big deal right now. And so what you do is after you render down all the fat, let it cook all day. Like you have the brisket on there and then throw the fat in there. You let it render down to a liquid. You get a mason jar, put a coffee filter on top, and for the mason jar, and pour the liquid gold, which is into the jar. It'll filter out all the crap out of it with the coffee filter. Let that thing solidify, and you got yourself beef tallow. And you can use beef tallow for a lot of stuff. You can use it for hair gel. You can use it for cooking. I think it's great with cooking. The other good thing with beef tallow too, you could put it on your steaks and kind of get a nice crust on your steak. Cooking with beef tallow is great. It's better than oils and seed oils and stuff like that. So you use the beef tallow. You can use it with your eggs. You can use it for whatever. Instead of using a regular oil, butter and beef tallow is kind of the way to go. And so you got beef tallow out of the fat without throwing the fat away. And then all the other excess meat, you can grind that up into either ground beef, or you can make them into burgers. I've done brisket chili before too. And so now when we do some barbecuing and get the select cuts of meat that we want and want to trim it to a more competition look or a cleaner look, I don't feel I didn't want to waste the meat. So we'll make all that stuff into burgers, and I've done that with a lot of different things with the meat grinder. You can make sausage too. I don't really make too much of that, but now I'm getting hungry. But anyway, the lunchtime hour. That's what we're doing this weekend. So I've seasoned the brisket, sitting overnight. We'll throw it on today. The lowest temperature, about 180 on the Traeger. Let that thing smoke for hours and build the bark. And you don't have to. You just make sure you got enough Traeger pellets in there or whatever your pellet grill is, and then you let it cook. It's not going to overcook at 180. It's just going to slowly just build bark, and then when you really want to get it going, you crank it up in the morning, and then you let it cook all day. It's the best part of that's the best part about grilling and smoking meats on the Traeger is just hang out all day, throw it on the grill, let it cook all day, and then you chill and hang out. That's the best part. But anyway, that's what we're doing tomorrow. Should be a fun time. Sunday, going to Disneyland. My sister's in town, so we're gonna go up to Disneyland, which is fun. This will be the first time, like, all of us now are grown up. I'm 30. My sister's going to be 27, and my brother's 24. We haven't been to Disneyland like as a family in forever. And so we're all going to go as adults and do the adult side of Disneyland, I guess. Go to the cantina that's got booze and stuff like that. So it should be a fun time. It'll be a inner childhood stuff, which would be cool. So looking forward to that. It'll be great. And as Rod said, yeah, gotta be able to talk smack to Donald Duck, who apparently is a huge Dodger fan and gave Rod some crap for his Padres stuff. So I will fight the good fight for Rod against Donald Duck if I see him on Sunday. So that's my weekend. Got Torero baseball again tonight and again on Saturday. Games at noon on Saturday. So when I'm done, be perfect time to take the brisket off or take it out of the cooler. And we'll be good to go. A little barbecue action for you. A little early kickoff to the summer. It's usually around Memorial Day weekend, but getting it done here in April for Easter. And I don't know what else. I don't know what my cousins are bringing. I don't know the rest of the menu. All I know is I was in charge of getting the brisket going, and that's what I did last night. Got home late last night from the USD baseball game, trimmed the brisket up, went out and seasoned it. Now it's sitting in the fridge. Power rankings, not for barbecue. You got barbecue back there? It's for the San Diego Pot. It's for Major League Baseball. ESPN had their power rankings out. And for ESPN, I asked the question last week. I was like, what do the Dodgers have to do to not be number one? Is it even possible? Is it even possible for them to not be number one throughout the entire season? And apparently they're listening, because this week they did not have the Dodgers one. And look, I'm not a huge power ranking guy, like going, the Padres have to be number one. Like, who cares? It doesn't really matter. It's just opinions of week to week. See how everybody's playing, whether you're on a hot streak or in a downturn, staying the same. But it's an interesting topic of conversation. It's sports talk radio. But the Padres actually were number one this week on ESPN. They were number one on CBS. I think they were number one on MLB.com. They were not number one in the Cespedes, to talk about barbecue, the Cespedes Barbecue group. Had the Padres number two. Padres are the best record in baseball. They're playing the best right now. They've actually moved up from 3 from ESPN's rankings, because they have the best home ERA in Major League Baseball. They're top 10 in OPS at home. And Petco Park is turning into a serious advantage. Tatis Jr. is crushing it at home with an OPS over 1,100. An 1,100 OPS. Petco Park really has been a top place to play. In fact, Mike Shildt talked about it on Ben and Woods earlier today.
Every game we played at home this season. Absolutely. If you really, and again, you talked about, what'd you miss, seeing the game, and, you see the game from a lot of different lenses and different experiences. And that's one of the wonderful things about the game. But for my lens to your question is absolutely, it's, and they can be subtle things that do show up actually in the box score, do show up in competition. Some are bigger. The ball that was hit down the line, fell in. There's 47,000 people helped be responsible for that. Leaf, our third base coach, looked over like, man, they just couldn't. It took that one instance where they were thrown off of their focus, concentration, looking, and that's all it takes in this game. And so you mentioned wild pitches. I see pitchers. I see guys, game speeding up on them. Guys dealing with a little bit more anxiety in a hostile environment that they're not used to, especially, players that aren't as familiar with this league or that kind of environment, which is, replicates, what a playoff environment is. So absolutely, it's a competitive advantage, and we're very grateful for it.
100% a competitive advantage, especially this part of the season. Like when you get to playoff time, I mean, everybody's got that juice going, right? And you get that from every stadium. You're going to have a full crowd. But, I mean, you look at the Arizona Diamondbacks, and they played the Marlins yesterday. They had to be like 15 people there. The official attendance of that game, tickets sold, was 8,616. Padres have had like over 40,000 almost every single game, including a Wednesday. A Wednesday afternoon in San Diego when school's in session, everybody's at work and everything. 40,000 people were at, more than 40,000 people were at the Padres-Cubs game on Wednesday. That's huge. I mean, if you're like the Diamondbacks, now they're playing in front of a bigger crowd in Chicago right now at Wrigley. But I mean, they've been playing in some empty stadiums against some lackluster opponents, and the NL West is going to have some full crowds to make the division even more scarier than it already is, with some of the experience that they're all going to have, playing in front of big crowds, because the more these teams win, the more their home crowds will be. I mean, Dodger Stadium gets a lot of people. It's the biggest stadium in baseball. I'm sure the Giants will start to get their bandwagoners back on the board after years of being bad. And then I don't know about the Diamondbacks. I mean, in the World Series, the Diamondbacks didn't have anybody at their games. I don't think anybody there cares. But you got a team like Arizona that's not used to playing in front of anybody, having to play against the Padres in a capacity crowd. It's going to be tough. Dodgers coming at number 2 on the power rankings from ESPN. They're down for number 1. Tommy Edman, the La Jolla Country Day product, is doing a great job. Breakout star, leading MLB in home runs, tied with a lot of other people at 6. Showing defensive versatility. Ohtani hit a brief slump. Nobody's shedding a tear about that. Edman has carried the offense. Dodgers have a lot of players that are going to carry offenses when other players go in a slump. But they come in at number 2, no surprise. Mets are at 3 at 11-7, up from number 4. Pete Alonso's doing a really good job for the Mets this year, tearing it up behind Juan Soto, leading the National League in OPS and OPS plus. Pitching around Soto is proving costly for opponents when they got to face a guy like Pete Alonso. Giants come in number 4, up from number 8. They continue to play really well. Didn't have the game go their way yesterday in Philly. But the Giants overall have been playing some really good baseball to start the season. They're now 13-6 on the year after losing yesterday 6-4 to the Phillies. But Jung-Hoo Lee is thriving in year 2. He leads the league in doubles and slugging at 647. He's punishing mistake pitches at an elite rate. Giants are off to a really good start. I don't necessarily know how sustainable that is, but the more I say it and the more they continue to win, the more belief I have that they're going to be around for a little bit of time now. They come in at number 4. Phillies come in at number 5, who just beat the Giants yesterday. They're now 11-8, down from number 2. Alec Baum's gone ice cold. He's 8 for 64, risking playing time. Phillies need his bat to wake up, or they might look elsewhere. Phillies just kind of puddling along at 11-8. You got to win yesterday against the Giants. Cubs come in at number 6. They're playing the Diamondbacks right now. They're up 2-0 in the top half of the 4th inning. No change from last week. They lost Justin Steele for the year. That hurts, but pitching depth and top prospect Cade Horton could help plug the gap. Cubs look pretty good still. They look good against the Padres. Going 3-3 against the Cubs is huge. Especially since they're going to start playing the rest of the National League West and everybody else in the National League the Padres are competing with. Yankees at 7, Diamondbacks at 8, Tigers at 9, Rangers at 10. A look at the top 10 for ESPN's power rankings for Major League Baseball. When we come back, take a look at a little bit of a story that Ben and Woods were talking about and my personal experience with it on the Braden Surprenant Show on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. 8:19 on the Braden Surprenant Show. If you want to join the show today, 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. If you're down in Houston getting ready for Padres and Astros, give me a phone call. I know a lot of Padres fans made the trip out to Houston. Sounded like that on the Ben and Woods show this morning on Ben and Woods. A lot of Padres fans are showing up. I think a lot of Padres fans are starting to do, and this is the benefit of the schedule and the change in the schedule in which you play everybody every year, is you get to go to all these locations that you would never go to except for like once every 6 years, once every 5, once every 6 years, where you would play all the other divisions in Major League Baseball in terms of like home and away. Like the Padres would go to the Bronx once every 5 years, and now they go every other year. And Padres fans, I mean, when your team's playing really well, it's if you haven't done it, watching your favorite team on the road is super fun for a lot of reasons. Being able to check out a different stadium is really cool. Seeing the different perspective of the Padres when it's not at home is also great. You get to see the road uniforms in person, something you never get to see here at Petco Park. And on top of that, the cool thing, especially like if you have kids, if you take them to a road game and they're wearing their Padres stuff, I mean, the access to players is way higher. Like you have a way better chance of getting an autograph or being able to meet one of these guys, because there's not a lot of, theoretically, fans of the road team on the road. I mean, these guys, they look for their allies right in the stands. So as opposed to home, when they're just going to get inundated with people all the time. So if you want to check out the Padres, I highly recommend finding a place to go watch them on the road and not doing it at, not going up to LA. It's too close, but like trying to do like a real baseball trip. I think a lot of Padres fans are utilizing that. I did that with Yankee Stadium a couple of years ago. I thought it was the coolest thing. It was a fun trip. Went out there for a couple of games, got to check out the new Yankee Stadium. And that kind of sparked the conversation on Ben at Woods about like those baseball trips and seeing every baseball stadium. Ben and Woods weren't necessarily interested in doing that. There was other things that they wanted to check off their bucket list. I don't necessarily know if it's on my bucket list to see every stadium in Major League Baseball, because I've already missed out on some that have either been torn down or like haven't been, they don't play there anymore. Like I've been to every stadium in California for baseball with the exception of the Oakland Coliseum. And quite frankly, I had zero interest in going to see the Oakland Coliseum. I think it'd be interesting to see the game in Sacramento with the A's just because it's a different environment, but I don't need to see the Oakland Coliseum. That's, so if that prevented me from seeing all 30 stadiums before I passed away, then so be it. I've been to Coors Field. I've been to Petco, obviously. I've been to Angel Stadium, been to Dodger Stadium, been to Oracle, back before it was called Oracle. I think it was like SBC Park or something like that, or Pac Bell or whatever telephone company it was at that point in time, a long time ago, but saw San Francisco. I haven't been to Arizona. I heard that's not really that great of a stadium, even though it's not too far of a drive or anything like that. I've been to Texas. I've been to the old Globe Life. I've been to the new Globe Life. I've been to Coors Field, as I mentioned, Yankee Stadium, Cincinnati, Great American Ballpark. I think that was a cool stadium. And then I've also been to Wrigley. I went to Wrigley last year. But that being said, it's pretty cool to see all these different stadiums. And, I heard Ben, and Ben was talking about, like, there's nothing better than Petco. There's not a lot of stadiums better than Petco Park. And I totally agree with that. Like, if you go into it just fully understanding that there's not going to be a stadium better than Petco Park, you're going to have way better of a time than if, you're trying to compare everything to Petco, because Petco is the best. And I'm not even trying to be biased with that. I mean, I've been to a lot of stadiums. I haven't been to PNC yet. I heard that rivals. But even going to Wrigley, like Wrigley's super cool. But I still like Petco for like the fan enjoyment. Like the nostalgia there is cool, but like everything's small. There's not a lot of place to walk around. You're basically in your seats. You still have those, view the poles that are in certain seats way. The surrounding area around Wrigley was super cool. I'd definitely go back to a game there. Like I'm hoping the Padres play the Cubs in the playoffs, so I can go out there for a weekend road, a weekend game. Maybe the games of the weekend in Chicago to go to Wrigley. I'd love to see the Padres play against the Cubs there. I watched Adam Klug's Atlanta Braves kick the living snot out of the Cubs last year at Wrigley Field. But I really like the baseball trips. And what's funny is like they talked about a bit of Woods like trying to drive like one summer trying to go to every single park. Like Paul was talking about it. It's very hard to do. It is very hard to do. But my brother kind of did that last year. He didn't go to every park, but he went to a handful of them. After he graduated college, him and his buddy, his college roommate, Jake Peralta, who is a Dodgers fan. He's from the LA area. They decided to do a little bit of a longer drive home. And so I tagged along, and so did my parents for their first couple of legs. I thought it was cool. They went to, did the Bourbon Trail up in Kentucky on the way to Louisville, went to the Louisville Bat Company, and then stayed just outside of Cincinnati and went to the Reds game. Reds played the Padres actually at Great American Ballpark, and then moved on to drove through the entire state of Indiana, which is a flat stretch of land, over to Chicago, went to Wrigley Field. I then left and came back to do obviously some talk shows, and then they went on and did the White Sox game, went down to St. Louis, went to the Cardinals game, went to Texas, did a Rangers game, and then they drove all the way back. I think they went to Arizona, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember if they skipped that one or not, and then came home to Southern California. But it was a fun little trip. I don't know how you could do like the entire thing, but in terms of like bucket list items for baseball stadiums, I mean, there's only a couple. Like, I really want to go to Boston. I went there with the Army-Navy game a couple of years ago. I thought it was the coolest thing. I wish I was in the town longer. I'm very, very much into U.S. history and everything like that. So being in a town like Boston, I thought I was starting to geek out over there. But it was a lot of stuff where we had to do where I didn't have a lot of free time. But I love the city of Boston. I thought it was a cool place. I want to go to Fenway. Unfortunately, I missed out last year. I wanted to go last year, but didn't work out with my schedule. So I'll have to wait till next year. I really want to go to Citizens Bank Park in Philadelphia. I thought Philadelphia was a cool city. People there are kind of rude, but aside from that, like it seemed pretty cool. I was outside the stadium, never went inside. But there's a handful of places I like to go check out. But like Ben and Wood said, I don't need to see every single one of them. I heard Busch Stadium's cool, but it's not something like finding an excuse to go to St. Louis would be the trouble shot there. I'd rather go to a bunch of different college football stadiums for me in terms of bucket list things. I mean, you could put your sports bucket list together and, any way to get on to Augusta, not necessarily play it, but be there one time, is definitely on my list. I think there's, some college football stadiums I'd like to go to and check off. I've been fortunate enough to be able to do a lot of different sporting events, for work, which I'm really blessed to say, and be a part of. But, anyway, a lot of cool stadiums out there to check out. I'd probably be more inclined to do college football stadiums than anything else. But, anyway, that's I thought it was an interesting conversation that they had. What do you say? 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. One place you've never been that you'd like to go watch at a sporting event? Take your calls on that. Plus, we got a big weekend in Major League Baseball, a lot of big matchups that affect the Padres. We'll get you a look at the week that was and the end that it's going to be on the Braden Surprenant Show on Settings Number Sports Station 97 through the Fan. giving away things on the Braden Surprenant show. And the Padres like doing giveaways, which we'll talk about a giveaway coming up on their next homestand. But I do want to mention that we will be playing our midday sports standoff coming up in about 15 minutes or so, maybe less than that. I actually won yesterday. Again, if you take me down or tie me in some sports trivia, you will win an opportunity to qualify for a chance to go to Vegas. 2 tickets to either Disturbed, Ghost, or Pantera in Las Vegas, plus a 2-night stay at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas, and a $150 gift card. Get tickets for all 3 shows now at Ticketmaster.com. 833-288-0973. 833-288-0973. Join us. Come take me down in sports trivia. Try to get you a opportunity to go to Vegas if you could take me down. 833-288-0973. 833-288-0973. Looking at the next homestand for the San Diego Padres, the Padres will take on the Tampa Bay Rays and the San Francisco Giants. Against Tampa, which will be next weekend, next Friday, April 25th. Join the Padres for the first Beer Fest this season, presented by Southwest Airlines, to enjoy $5 craft beers and live music. On Saturday, April 26th, all fans are invited to stay after the game for a post-game fireworks show. So fireworks on Saturday, as presented by SeatGeek. This spectacular post-game performance will be set to the songs of Petco Park concerts past, present, and future. That's pretty cool. Coming up on that Sunday against the Rays, April 27th, bring your family and arrive early for Kids Fest, presented by SDG&E, where kids can enjoy the fully renovated Gallagher Square with inflatables, face painters, and brand new playground and upgraded play ball field. Plus, stick around after the game for Kids Run the Bases, presented by Chick-fil-A. Kids ages 14 and under are able to participate. So that's the next weekend series against the Rays. Now, this is what I think everybody wants. I want it. But the Padres, after their 3-game series against Tampa, get Tony's bat. Come on, man. Rip your bat. Coming up against, or right after the series against Tampa, the Giants are in town for a 2-game series. Tuesday, Wednesday. On Tuesday, April 29th, the Padres will give their first 40,000 fans a Tony Gwynn rookie bobblehead presented by Petco. Celebrate Mr. Padre and collect this item. It's a must-have for all faithful fans. There he is. Tony Gwynn. 1982 rookie season, as said. He's in the brown and gold. He's got the classic helmet look as well. There's Tony. Presented by Petco. You could get that if you attend the game on Tuesday, April 29th against San Francisco. First 40,000 in attendance will get a Tony Gwynn rookie bobblehead. Bobbleheads will be distributed on a first-come, first-served basis. First pitch set for 6:40. Gates open to the public 90 minutes prior. Arrive early to secure your giveaway item. For more information, go to Padres.com/giveaways. I like it. Tony Gwynn's my favorite player of all time. If there is a Tony Gwynn thing, if Tony Gwynn's name is on it, I probably own it. I have so much Tony Gwynn stuff in my house, in my room. Signed bat, used bat, signed baseballs, bobbleheads, you name it. I got it. Wheaties box, all that fun stuff. I took the Wheaties out of the Wheaties box just because I didn't need a bunch of. I know that makes it like less valuable or whatever like that, but I'm not keeping the Wheaties in there. I mean, come on now. Let's be real here. That's kind of gross. Not that into it, but anyway, I got a lot of Tony Gwynn stuff, which is super cool. So I got to get my hands on this bobblehead. Got to go to the game. Might see you guys there. What? Well, I'm going to take it then. I'm going to absolutely take this one. What's going on in baseball this weekend? We got a lot of big games this weekend, but Sarah Langs and Langs on Sports did a great piece on Major League Baseball this week about some stats and things that have happened. 10 mind-blowing MLB notes from this week. Big Dumper breaks a record. Cal Raleigh became the Mariners' all-time home run leader among catchers with 101 career home runs, surpassing Mike Zunino. He's now chasing Mike Piazza's catching record for 128 homers in his first 5 seasons. He was on fire against the Reds this week. He homered twice. He hit a bomb off Nick Martinez early in the game. Mariners starting to heat up a little bit. Reds continuing to just kind of putter around at the Great American Bandbox. Wilson's rookie streak, Jacob Wilson's 15-game hitting streak to start the season was the 6th longest by a rookie since 1900. Garrett Crochet shut out his former team, held the White Sox hitless through 7 1/3 innings in his game against them, tied for the 3rd longest no-hit bid versus a former team since 1961. You know who broke up Garrett Crochet's no-hitter? Anybody? Chase Mydroth, who was traded for Garrett Crochet over the offseason for the White Sox. USD Torero broke up Garrett Crochet's no-hitter against his former team. Funny how that works out. Hunter Green's been elite starting pitcher for the Cincinnati Reds. He is just the 5th pitcher in 125 years to start a season with 30-plus strikeouts, less than 5 walks, and less than 3 earned runs in his first 4 outings. Hunter Green has been off to an elite start. Nobody has been as elite, though, as the Padres pitching staff. San Diego threw 6 shutouts in their first 16 games, joining the 1966 Cleveland organization as the only teams to do so. They also completed their first ever full series shutout. That was against the Rockies. Paul Skeens and Henry Davis formed the first number 1 overall pick battery in terms of a pitcher and a catcher. Both players first ever number 1 overall picks to be a pitcher catcher in the same game. A historic battery. Bobby Witt Jr. had a gritty home run. His homered in a 10-pitch plus at bat for the 2nd time in his career. Only Mike Sweeney had done that twice in Royals history. Tyler Soderstrom has been off to a great start as well, hitting bombs. He is the youngest player ever with 3 multi-homer games in a team's first 17 games, joining the legends of Reggie Jackson and Carlos Delgado. Padres 11-0 home start to the season, tied for 9th longest all-time, matching the 2003 Royals and 1883 Athletics. And finally, the other craziest, mind-blowing stat of the week in Major League Baseball is Matt Olson. Iron Man Matt Olson has played 638 consecutive games, one of just 8 such streaks of 600-plus games in the divisional era. So those are some of the mind-boggling stats of this week. Coming up this weekend, some very important series that the Padres should pay attention to. Already scoreboard watching in April. No, that's nuts. But if you're a diehard fan and you want to know what the competition is doing, some pretty important series out there in Major League Baseball that impact the Padres. One of them has already started. It's the Cubs and the Diamondbacks. Cubs are up 2-1 on Arizona to start a 3-game series this weekend. In the top of the 5th inning, it's bases loaded for the Arizona Diamondbacks and 2 outs with Josh Naylor at the plate. We'll let you know how that transpires. But this is a big series for the Cubs, a big series for the Diamondbacks, and looking further along. In fact, I looked at this earlier this week about the Chicago Cubs. What a brutal stretch they are currently in the middle of. After playing the Dodgers and the Padres on the road, the Cubs, for the reward of their 500 road trip, which is very impressive for them. Here's what the Cubs' month of April's look like. Padres at home, followed by the Rangers at home, at the Los Angeles Dodgers, at the San Diego Padres, hosting the Arizona Diamondbacks, day off, hosting the LA Dodgers, day off, hosting the Philadelphia Phillies. That is a murderer's row in the month of April, and the Cubs are still one of the best teams in Major League Baseball with that schedule. We'll see how this one plays out against Arizona. That's a big series to pay attention to. Philadelphia is starting to heat up a little bit. They host Miami this weekend. The New York Mets are hosting the St. Louis Cardinals. Braves trying to bounce back and play a inferior team in the Minnesota Twins. Sitting at 5-13 are the Braves. They're taking on the 7-12 Twins this weekend. It should be a get-back series for the Atlanta Braves. We'll see how they do against Minnesota. Dodgers are in Texas to take on the Rangers, and the Giants are in Southern California taking on the Halos. So those are the really the competition that you need to see this weekend in Major League Baseball. A big weekend in Major League Baseball early in the season. We'll have the full recap of that coming up on Monday's show after hopefully the Padres take care of business against the Chicago Cubs. Without further ado, it's time for our Midday Sports Standoff.
Welcome to Midday Sports Standoff on the Braden Surprenant Show.
I can't believe what I'm seeing right now.
The ultimate head-to-head battle where sports knowledge and quick thinking collide.
No, he's no good. Are you kidding me?
Contestants will go toe-to-toe with Braden in a sports trivia deal where every correct answer brings them closer to victory.
Down the sideline! Wow! Unbelievable!
But 3 strikes and it's game over.
This is not Detroit, man. This is the Super Bowl.
Can you outsmart Braden? The Midday Sports Standoff starts now.
All right, try to get somebody qualified for an opportunity to go to Vegas. If you win today's prize, or if you take me down, you'll win our grand prize, 2 tickets to either Disturbed Ghost or Pantera in Las Vegas, plus a 2-night stay at the MGM Grand in Sin City, and a $150 gift card. Get tickets for all 3 shows now at Ticketmaster.com. Contestant today, Matt in San Diego. Matt, hopefully you're having a good Friday. What's going on, man?
Doing awesome, man. Can't wait.
All right, let's see if you could take me down to some sports trivia. Here's how it's going to work. Adam has a trivia question. It has multiple answers to said trivia question. For everyone you guess correctly, you get a point. Everyone I guess correctly, I get a point. If any of the answers repeat on the list, you will get multiple points per how many times those items appear on the list. If you cannot guess or you guess incorrectly, you will get a strike. 3 strikes and you're out. If we have the same score, you will win the contest, but whoever has the most at the end will win, as we will go back and forth until we get 3 strikes, until the entire list has been filled. Makes sense?
Sounds good.
All right, Matt, we'll see what Adam has in store for us today.
There's no repeat answers today.
All right.
Just throwing it out there.
That's good to know. Well, that's good to know.
The Rangers beat the Angels 5-3 last night, earning Bruce Bochy his 2,183rd career managerial win, tying him for 7th on the all-time list for managers' wins. Name any manager in the top 10 all-time managers' wins, excluding Bruce Bochy, of course.
Excluding Bruce Bochy. All right, and this is all-time?
All-time.
Not current?
Not current, not active.
All right. Matt, you get to start things
first.
off.
Tony La Russa.
Tony La Russa, 2nd all-time.
All right, that was going to be my first guess, so it's a good one there.
Do you have a second guess?
I mean, I'm seeing all their faces. I'm trying to remember their names. Who else?
Pretty tough ones, just letting you know.
Oh, I bet.
But you should be able to get at least a handful of these.
At least a handful of these. What about Dusty Baker?
Dusty Baker. That's who Bruce Bochy tied with at 7th.
Correct.
So 1 more win, and he passes Dusty Baker for 7th place alone.
How about Bobby Cox?
4th all-time.
Okay. Oh my God, what is that guy's name?
It's a great question.
The Bavacqua guy.
Bavacqua.
It's him, and then the other one was like I was thinking off the top of my head was the guy that used to manage the Tigers. But I do know, like, I'm pretty sure. What is his name? Like, it's like something Mack. Is it Connie Mack? Isn't he like the most all time in wins?
Number 1 all time,
Connie Mack. So that's still not one of the names I've been trying to remember.
3,731, which is almost 1,000 more wins than Tony La Russa at number 2.
That's insane. All right.
How about Sparky Anderson?
6th all time. Bochy will catch and pass him this year.
Well, unless they lose every game from here on out, right?
Yes, Braden, unless that happens. Thank you for pointing that out.
You know, if the season ended today.
3-2. No strikes either.
I'm
Guys are doing well so far.
I'm going to go Joe Torre.
Not like you were hemming and hawing, but I mean, nobody's missed one yet. Joe Torre, 5th all time.
We're going to start getting into some old timers here, and it's going to be hard.
We've got number 3, number 4, number 6, 9, and 10, I believe. So far, 5. There's half the list still available. No, I'm sorry. There's 3 of 3, so there's only 4 still available.
Only 4 left.
How about John McGraw?
John McGraw, 3rd all time.
Yeah, there's gonna be a bunch of old names, dude.
Yeah, there's only 3 left, so good luck.
Yeah,
and probably only one of them that you know.
I don't know how Matt knew John McGraw.
Pulled a rabbit out of a hat.
Yeah, exactly. All right, the last old manager I know is
such an ageist.
I am. Well, I mean, I was born in '95, so come on. The Bucky Harrison.
Did you go Bucky Harrison?
Bucky Harrison.
The 9th place all time on the manager list is Bucky Harris.
Bucky Harris.
I'm going to give it to you.
Okay, thanks. Again, I was born in '95.
4-4. There are what? 2 correct answers left? Unless there's only one. Did you already name one of these? No.
There should be 2 left, right? Because there's 10.
Yeah, but
we're going back and
Bochy.
forth. Oh, so there's only 9 total. Yeah.
There's only one left. I don't think anybody's going to get this one.
All right. Well, if he gets it, he wins.
He's already tied unless you can beat him, I guess.
That's true.
Lou Piniella.
Lou Piniella. Comes in 17th.
I don't remember that. What was that Tigers manager? I don't think he's on the list. He was like Team USA's manager for a long time.
I think you're thinking of Jim Leyland.
Jim Leyland is who I'm thinking of. I know he wasn't
for that
on
one.
there.
He's 18th on the list.
He's 18th. Didn't win a lot of ball games, apparently. Back to Matt.
Leo DeRocher.
Leo DeRocher is 12th on the list.
All right, I'm just gonna go with Terry Francona.
Terry Francona comes in at number 13.
Well, if he didn't, yeah. Well, maybe he
All right, so if Matt gets this wrong, does he lose? He'd be first of 3 strikes, but you guys are tied at 4.
I think so. This is the win.
This is the disadvantage.
It's the disadvantage of going first.
Oh, how about Joe McCarthy?
Joe McCarthy. Braden, are you familiar with pulling a rabbit out of a hat?
Yes. Done it twice now.
I've never even heard of Joe McCarthy.
Neither have I.
10th on the list. Congratulations, Matt.
Joe McCarthy.
That's unbelievable.
Joe McCarthy was born in 1887, died in 1978, made his major league debut for the Chicago Cubs in 1926, was a catcher. Last MLB appearance was 1950 for the Boston Red Sox. He managed 3,487 games.
That's legitimately unbelievable. When was he born?
He was born in 1887.
Never heard of the guy.
He was born
pulls him out of his hat.
He was born 22 years after the Civil War.
What?
Yes. Well,
can I just
Civil
point
War's in
out
1865.
that? Can I just point out that Bob Melvin is 22nd on this list? 22nd most wins of all time.
Are you saying a surprising thing, or
I wouldn't have guessed that he was in the top 25. Let's say.
Right. I mean, he's been a manager for a long time.
Yeah, that's true. He's got however many managers of the years. We've got some accusations going on in the Google chat. People thinking that some Googling.
Google coming in clutch for Joe McCarthy. Who did he coach for? Who did he manage?
Is he a real person?
Yeah, he's fake actually. Managerial record. He was a manager for the Cubs, the Yankees, and the Red Sox. He was a manager from 1926 through 1950. So he wasn't a player. That was that's when he was a manager. Won a World Series with the Yankees 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times.
Sure he did, Braden. Sure he did.
Joe McCarthy? Yeah, so it said. Lost the World Series to the St. Louis Cardinals in 1942. There's your history lesson on Joe McCarthy. This guy managed in the World Series 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times. I wonder if Chris Ella knows who this is. Chris is the human almanac.
Text him.
I might have to text him and see. He managed the Cubs, the Yankees, and the Red Sox. 7-time World Series champion. He's in the Chicago Cubs Hall of Fame, Monument Park honorees, and the member of the National Baseball Hall of Fame. He was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 1957, Adam. How about that? He recorded a 100-win season 6 times, a record matched by Bobby Cox. Who did he manage? I mean, those 1940s Yankees teams. I guess. Anyway, that was the Midday Sports Standoff. Not bad. So top 10 managers all time winning: Connie Mack, Tony La Russa, John McGraw, Bobby Cox, Joe Torre, Sparky Anderson, Dusty Baker, Bruce Bochy, Bucky Harris, and Joe McCarthy. Terry Francona is, how many games behind is he from being outside the top 10? I don't like doing math on the air. It's very difficult. But McCarthy's got 2125?
175-ish?
I think it's doable. A couple years. Maybe Terry Francona will be a answer for myself in the future. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Braden Surprenant Show rolls on. When we come back, a full preview of the Astros and the Padres. Game 1 starts tonight at 5:10. You'll be heard right here on 97.3 The Fan. On the Braden Surprenant Show, final hour of the show for the week. Thanks again for making our day a part of yours every single day from 10 to 2. We really appreciate that. We are going to have Padres baseball coming up at 5:10 on 97.3 The Fan, the Eagle Water SoCal Padres pregame show at 4:10. And on Gwynn and Chris, they're going to have a special Friar Friday guest. Jason Adam will join Gwynn and Chris coming up at 2:40. So in the next hour, at 2 o'clock, in the 2 o'clock hour to start the show, Jason Adam on with Gwynn and Chris. You might want to tune into that. To hear from the relief pitcher for the Padres, and they get ready for a 3-game series against the Houston Astros. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. If you want to join the show today, really appreciate you guys tuning in to us. Give us a follow on social media at B_SURP, at BSURP. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. It's funny, on TikTok, I posted one of the post-game scrums with Manny after the loss earlier this week. Posted on Instagram and Twitter too. That thing's blowing up on TikTok the last 24 hours because Padres fans and Dodgers fans are arguing with each other in the comments. And it just keeps pushing it out more and more and more. It's hilarious. Hilarious. I'm like getting all these notifications from people just arguing with each other about the Padres and Dodgers. We're not even close to them playing yet. They don't play until like June. But thanks for getting the added views to the video. Just keep commenting nonsense in the chat on the TikTok page. But again, if you want to, we covered a lot of things here in San Diego. A lot of our segments from our show that are really good that you missed, we try to post on social media as well. So give me a follow at B_SURP, at BSURP. Everybody that's watching on YouTube, give us a like on the YouTube page. We really appreciate that. It really helps out with getting our video out there. So nice 30 likes. Like to get some more on there as much as we can. Really appreciate that as well. We have a lot to get to still on the Braden Surprenant Show before we pass it along to Gwynn and Chris. In this hour, Drake Hills will be joining me. We'll talk a little bit of San Diego FC as they get ready to take on Charlotte this weekend, as they continue their 2025 campaign and first campaign of their organization's history. They're on the road at Charlotte after dropping a game at Colorado last week. We'll talk about it with Drake coming up at 1:35. But for the next hour, we're going to be talking a lot about the Houston Astros and kind of a preview of Padres and Astros as we get you ready for Padres baseball. Again, tonight, the game is at 5:10 on your local networks. And again, all of our games will be on 97.3 The Fan, so you can listen to it. You also listen to it on the Audacy app as well. Cashed in on that earlier this week, but good to see or be able to listen to Tony and Jesse throughout the entire weekend. As Saturday and Sunday, the Padres will be playing at 4:10 both days. But that being said, they will also be on national television. So Fox Sports 1 on Saturday, ESPN on Sunday. I think Padres TV is still doing the game on Saturday, if I'm not mistaken. So you don't have to tune into the national broadcast, but you definitely have to do it on Sunday if you want to listen to your local outlets. You can tune into the radio and listen to Jesse and Tony on 97.3 The Fan. You can also tune into Dawn and Mud for the next 2 days as well. But that's kind of the outline for the weekend. In terms of the series this weekend between the Padres and the Astros, you got an Astros team that's still trying to really find themselves when it comes to their overall offensive identity. And they really haven't been able to get going offensively. Their pitching has been the bright spot, but overall, like with their team identity, it's kind of lost some when it comes to like who's in, like just with Kyle Tucker being traded, Alex Bregman being gone. The Astros have turned the page while avoiding a full teardown, but obviously their plan is pitching-led contention anchored by really Hunter Brown, Hayden Wisniewski, and Framber Valdez, if you will. Houston's rotation has looked has had signs of being dominant, but the offense remains to be under construction and currently very underwhelming. When you look at the starting pitching for this weekend, you're going to get some matchups of Kyle Hart versus Ryan Gusto. You're going to have Michael King versus Hayden Wesneski, and you're going to have Dylan Cease versus Framber Valdez. In terms of Wesneski, Padres get to miss Hunter Brown, which is nice. But for Wesneski, he had 10 strikeouts, no walks against the Angels, allowed 3 solo home runs, but stayed composed. His traits are command, very good at sequencing, high strike zone success with his sweeper and a 4-pitch pitch. Espada said, Joe Espada, the manager of the Astros, said he pitched his butt off in his last outing after his career best outing against the Halos. You're going to see him on Saturday against Michael King. But in terms of the rest of the pitching matchups tonight, left-handed Kyle Hart, great at home, been a disaster on the road. And he's only had the one road start. It was really rough. A 67.5 ERA in the lone road start, but he's looked pretty good at home for the San Diego Padres. Can he bounce back and have a good road outing in his second outing? And the left-handed Hart will go against the right-hander Ryan Gusto. Gusto's 1-1 to the 3 ERA. Rookie with solid command, fast-rising arm, but somebody that was expected to be part of the bullpen for the Astros, not necessarily in their starting rotation. And so maybe be able to jump on Gusto tonight for the Padres to start off the weekend would be great for San Diego. In terms of Saturday's pitching matchup, Michael King, who's coming off a complete game gem, 3-0 with a 2.42 ERA, going against Hayden Wesneski. As I mentioned, 10 strikeouts, no walks in his outing last time. He was part of that Kyle Tucker trade that they sent Tucker to the Cubs and got Wesneski back. He's 1-1 with a 4 ERA. That's Saturday's matchup. And then coming up on Sunday, Dylan Cease, 1-1 with a 6.64 ERA. He's got a 10.24 ERA his last 2 starts, but dominated the Astros last year when he did pitch against Houston. As for Framber Valdez, who'll be going against the Padres on Sunday, left-handed pitcher, 1-2 with a 4.50 ERA, coming off a rough outing, but owns a 3.18 ERA versus San Diego all-time. Padres have not done well against left-handers. They only have to deal with one of them this weekend, which is Framber Valdez. Padres, again, all 4 of their losses have come against left-handed pitching. Edge watch, stolen bases. San Diego leads Major League Baseball in stolen bases with 89% success rate. Houston ranks dead last in caught stealing. They're 1 for 25. So the Padres might be using some aggressive base running against the Astros this weekend. Robert Suarez has 8 saves and is not allowed to run this season. And Josh Hader has 4 saves and has a 1 ERA. The former 8-9 combo in the back end of the bullpen for the Padres are the 2 closers this weekend. It's also Josh Hader bobblehead night, one of these games this weekend as well. Injury updates. Jackson Merrill, Brandon Lockridge are both out with hamstring injuries. We did get an update from Mike Shildt earlier today on Ben and Woods with Jackson Merrill. He did not make the trip to Houston, so he's still trying to come back. He's going to work on a lot of stuff here at home. Do not expect him to be back on the road trip. Hopefully we can get more updates on him when the Padres return home. Yu Darvish is playing catch, could return soon. Waldron, Cronenworth, Reynolds, and Hoeing are still sidelined with injuries. As for the Astros, they have pitching injuries everywhere. 7 right-handers are on the injured list, including Lance McCullers Jr., Garcia and Christian Javier are all on the injured list. Outfield depth, Trammell and Leon are both on the IL. So the Astros a little banged up right now. But the biggest problem for the Astros has been really their lineup that has potential but is not producing. Christian Walker hitting 152 on the year in 75 plate appearances with a 42 OPS. Cleanup hitter all season. He's hitting way too many ground balls despite strong exit velo and bat speed, chasing more than usual early in the season. Now trying to adjust from that. That might work with Kyle Hart's outside the zone pitching. Emotionally reactive but accountable. He says he has to be his own coach. That was in a topic earlier, in discussion earlier this week with the media. Still getting on base, 8 walks in the last 7 games, but struggling a lot to lift the ball and drive in runs. Cleanup woes are symbolic for a broader offensive underperformance for the Astros. Yanier Diaz has an OPS of 397 as a catcher for the Astros. Quiet bat so far despite his catching duties for dominant pitchers like Brown. Yordan Alvarez is off to a poor start. Only 4 extra base hits for Alvarez in his first 72 plate appearances, with his home run number 2 coming against the Cardinals in their last series, but slow overall start for Houston's franchise bat. Jose Altuve, one of the lone players from their World Series teams, didn't record a double until his 73rd plate appearance. Another veteran off to a cold April, but still provides a plate presence that you have to deal with. Cam Smith is their top prospect. He plays right field. A once hot start has now cooled. OPS is now below 600 after an 0 for 3 against St. Louis. Still seen as a part of the long-term core, but facing some adjustment periods. Isaac Paredes, bright spot at 276 average with 3 home runs and 9 RBIs, making pitchers work and providing Bregman-like on base percentage plus his plate control behind Yordan. He's been a little bit of a bright spot for the Houston Astros. Jake Myers, who roams center field for the Astros. Clutch RBI hits, solid defense, quietly productive in the bottom half of the order. Team offensive profile has been very, very bad. OPS, bottom 5 in Major League Baseball for the Astros. Their slugging is 4th worst. Their runs scored is 3 or fewer in 13 of 18 games, excluding a 14-run explosion against the Angels. Cleanup spot in the OPS, which has been mostly Christian Walker, bottom 3 in Major League Baseball. RBIs from the cleanup hitter, 2 total, worst in Major League Baseball. Christian Walker not having a great start to the year for the Astros. Espada is staying patient, the manager for the Astros. Too early to shake up the lineup, but his options are limited. The struggles aren't isolated to Walker. The entire top half of the order is underperforming for Houston. So the way you look at it this weekend, Padres and Astros, pitching staff for the Astros is their bright spot, but again, their guys are nothing to really write home about. Interesting to see Fernando Valdez on Sunday. He is a left-hander, which has given problems to the Padres, but that being said, he hasn't been off to the greatest of starts. Ryan Gusto, as mentioned before, was supposed to be in the bullpen, but injuries have pressed him in the starting role. Wisniewski has been a tough starter for Houston, but he's going against arguably San Diego's best in Michael King, who has a 3-0 record and a 2.42 ERA. So overall, in the weekend matchups, I favor the Padres in this. The Padres are playing really good baseball. Best record in MLB, 1.5 games up in the NL West, a positive run differential at plus 37. Astros are having some major offensive struggles. 26th in average, 27th in slug. They're 5th in the AL West at 8 and 10. And just, you're getting them at the right time. You're getting the Astros at the right time, kind of early in the season. They're still trying to find their identity right now. So it should be a interesting series. Hopefully the Padres can take care of business against an inferior opponent against the Astros and then get ready for the Detroit Tigers. We'll continue with our coverage of Padres and Astros, but we do want to get to a little bit of an update. Leo DeVries hit a bomb yesterday. Jack Costello shining. Minor league update for the Padres when we come back on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97 through the Fan. 2-1 lead for the Cubs, bottom 7, but the bases are loaded for Chicago against the Arizona Diamondbacks, and nobody is out. We'll see what the Rattlebacks have in store for the Chicago Cubs here in the bottom of the 7th inning. This hour on 97 to the Fans brought to you by Frozen Ropes, San Diego. Hey, parents, here's a message from Coach Kurt with Frozen Ropes. Is your child 6 to 12 years old? Our baseball summer league is the perfect fit for your player. Starting June 16th through August 17th, Summer League includes 8 practices, 8 games. Register by April 30th. Save $50. Go to SanDiegoFrozenRopes.com. Braden Surprenant Show. Thanks again for tuning in today. I'll have the brisket updates for you on Monday. And if I run into Donald Duck at Disneyland on Sunday, I'll let you know on Monday as well. Looking out for you, Rod. Got you, bud. Will not tolerate slander from Donald Duck on these airwaves. Not with the biggest fan, Rod. Tell you that. So we'll talk about that on Monday. Hopefully recapping a fun weekend series for the Padres against the Houston Astros, and then getting you ready for a 3-game series against Detroit, the Detroit Tigers. I wanted to get to some of the minor league stuff. I try to update you once a week on that, where you get, a little bit of taste of what's going on. I feel like the minor leagues, I mean, to me, here's my thing on the minor leagues. Like, I feel like you're either super into minor league baseball or you're rooting for a team that is not very good and the future is the minor league teams. Like, when the Padres were not very good, everything was about the minor leagues because of the future coming up, right? So you look at the minor leagues for the Padres, and for 2017 through about 2022, it was all about who's coming up in the Padres organization, all this other stuff. And then the last couple of years with the major league team getting a lot of the resources, you've kind of fallen off a little bit. And there's a lot of local outlets that cover the minor leagues that do a really good job. Jeff Sanders on the San Diego Union Tribune does a good job. The guys at Mad Friars they're locked in. Sammy Lev is, he loves minor league baseball too. I mean, he'll keep you updated on things on the Padres, on the EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show and everything like that. But I want to update you once a week because everybody always asks like how other players are doing, and especially like Luis Camposano's off to a hot start to his season, and now people are talking about whether or not the Padres should bring him up or to be an extra bat and everything like that. And we'll talk more about that in a second. Leo DeVries, I do think it's worth paying attention to him. He took a batting practice ball to the head the other day, and so he left the game early in concussion protocol. Top prospect Leo DeVries returned to action yesterday and hit his first home run of the season for High 8 Fort Wayne in a 9-1 victory over Lake County. 18-year-old shortstop also drove in 2 runs and cleared concussion protocol. DeVries is hitting .206 this year, the .353 slug through 9 games. Rosman Verdugo hit 2 home runs and drove in 4 for the Tin Caps. San Diego Torero, Jack Costello, hit a home run last night for the Tin Caps. He's off to a good start, which is great to see. Braden Carpathios also starred with Costello. He tripled 3 times yesterday. Jose Reyes, 4 innings, 4 strikeouts, and no earned runs. Not that Jose Reyes, a different Jose Reyes. Garrett Hawkins, 2 innings, no earned runs, pitched very well, while Harry Gustin earned 3 innings save. Fort Wayne now up to 7-5 in High A Fort Wayne. AAA El Paso's at 7-11 now. Luis Camposano continued his tear. He homered twice, his 4th and 5th homers of the season with 3 hits yesterday. Tirso Ornelas had 4 hits. He continues to put pressure on the Padres about a potential call-up. Mason McCoy hit his first homer and drove in 3. Stephen Kolek allowed 7 runs in 5 innings, include 3 homers. Not that great of an outing out of Stephen Kolek yesterday. Padres have been great at the major league level with starting pitching. Stephen Kolek, takes a ding yesterday, but pitching in AAA in the Pacific Coast League is very difficult to do. Grand slam for the Cubs. Grand slam for the Cubs. Cubs blow it open at the bottom of the 7th inning. Ian Happ hits the grand slam. And the 2nd homer of the year. Bleacher creatures out there are having a blast. It's 6-1 Cubs, bottom 7 with 1 out. as they take a commanding lead over the Arizona Diamondbacks. Good news for the NL West. Again, you split with the Cubs. You don't really care what they do now. They don't lose out on any tiebreakers with Chicago. They're probably going to win their division. Now you're rooting for the Cubs to beat up on everybody else in the NL West. Good start to the weekend series for Chicago against the Arizona Diamondbacks. Back to the minor league report. Double-A San Antonio, Miguel Cienfuegos, 3 innings pitched, 1 earned run, got the win. Nunez earned the save. Romeo Sanabria hit his 3rd homer, and Anthony Villar added his 1st. Ethan Salas doubled and scored a run. Double-A San Antonio now 8-4 on the season. That is the best team in the Padres minor league system. Loe Lake Elsinore is now 3-9 on the year. Boston Bateman, Padres 2024 second rounder, notched his first pro win with 5 shutout innings and 7 strikeouts. Lamar King Jr. hit his 2nd homer. Ryan Jackson and Ryan Wilson both drove in 3 runs. That's a look at your minor league report. Again, Leo DeVries rebounds with the bang, hitting the home run. Jack Costello hit a home run for Fort Wayne. It's good to see Leo contribute again. The better news is that he's back and playing for the Fort Wayne Tin Caps. I wanted to mention this earlier. I didn't. We talked about the season ticket prices for the Aztecs being ridiculous, and just tickets in general, and their season ticket numbers and percentages have been very low. They've continued to plummet. They're having a big event tomorrow at Snapdragon Stadium. It's free to attend their spring game, but it's going to be more of a showcase and kind of some fun contest. Go to goaztecs.com. You can get your free ticket to attend that event to check out Aztec football. Parking is $10 tomorrow at Snapdragon Stadium. But interesting note, I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago. I wanted to know what the latest update was on the rest of the SDSU Mission Valley expansion, and Kurt Kenny wrote about it in yesterday's paper. But significant development is set to begin this summer on the eastern side of San Diego State's Mission Valley ahead of the 2025 football season. Avalon Bay Communities will build a 621-unit residential complex with 30,000 square feet of retail, including a grocery store, sit-down restaurant, and other food and beverage options. So that's one way to get people into Mission Valley. Completion is expected by 2028. This marks the next phase of the 2022 opening of Snapdragon Stadium and completion of 86 acres of parks and open space. A full $3.5 billion, 135-acre project will eventually include 4,600 housing units, 10% of them being affordable, a 400-room hotel, 100,000 square feet of campus retail, and a major innovation district with 1.6 million square feet of office and research space. 2026 will see the start of construction on the first innovation district building, affordable housing, and additional multifamily housing. Existing parking lots will be transformed. Orange lot will be the residential site, yellow lot the innovation site, green lot will be the future hotel site. San Diego State plans to maintain smooth event day operations and build new parking structures to replace lost surface lots. I disagree with you. Time's up. Soccer City was definitely not even close to a better deal. San Diego voters did pick correctly with the Aztec deal. You went with a corporate thing that could have potentially led to worse results for you compared to an Aztec deal that at least benefits one of the local universities. So disagree on that comment in the chat, but it's good to see that they're finally starting to build the rest of the lot. They got all the parks done. They got the stadium done, and we'll see what the surrounding area will start to look like. If you want to join the show, 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Speaking of soccer, it's time to dive into our soccer update of the week. Drake Hill is contributing writer for Black Players for Change. Will join me next on the Braden Surprenant Show on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. show this week. Getting ready for Padres baseball at 5:10. Equal Water SoCal Padres pregame show at 4:10. Padres and Astros 3-game series this weekend. Coming up next on Gwynn and Chris, Jason Adam joins Tony Gwynn Jr. and Chris Ello as part of the Friar Friday conversation. That will be coming up at 2:40 Pacific time for all of you guys. Get excited for Padres baseball coming up. But Padres aren't the only team in action this weekend for San Diego. San Diego FC will take on Charlotte Football Club tomorrow at 4:30 p.m. Pacific time. And to talk to us a little bit more about that matchup, how they did last week against Colorado, and talk a little transfer windows in Major League Soccer, Drake Hills, contributing writer for Black Players for Change, joins us on the Braden Surprenant Show. Drake, good to talk to you again. What's going on? How's your Good Friday?
Oh, man, happy Good Friday to you, Braden. All is well here. Yeah, definitely a bit of an exciting period for San Diego FC. Just it keeps on coming, right? We talked last week about Chris Armas, the coach for Colorado Rapids, hasn't yet lost a game to an expansion team, and he's continued his winning ways up against San Diego FC. Obviously, the highest level of altitude in MLS, and it doesn't get any easier with Charlotte, who have not lost a game at home this year. So we'll see, but it's going to be an exciting matchup.
Talk to us a little bit about last weekend, obviously going to Colorado, and I think San Diego FC fans have been to a point where they've believed that they can win every single game on the road after their hot start on the road. Most times you're just trying to play for an even draw. Got away from late as they jumped out to a lead, Colorado did. But what did you see out of the boys playing at high altitude?
Well, I saw a team that, going up against a pretty strong midfield. We talked about Georgi Mihailovic. He's always someone who can thread the needle with his passing, but he makes a lot of plays in his combination with a lot of the attacking players. We talked about Rafael Navarro as well. Those two guys were able to get goals. Obviously, Georgie, with the penalty to get it started off. But I was very impressed with Thomas Angel, someone who, obviously, with a San Diego FC team that has the likes of, when all healthy, a Marcus Ingvartsen and Andres Dreyer, and, of course, Chucky Lozano, someone who's able to come off the bench at times, but also he's able to step up if need be to start and still score. So he's a guy who, we're very, very impressed with his goal production coming off the bench and just giving that support in the long run because, it's a long season. You got 34 games and we're not even a third of the way there. So getting extra goal production from him, even in the loss to Colorado, it's a good sight.
Coming up tomorrow, Drake, we have the continuation of this relative road trip, even though they play once a week, as San Diego FC will be playing at Charlotte, a 4:30 start time here on the West Coast. And what does Charlotte bring for San Diego FC to deal with as they sit near the top of the leaderboard in the Eastern Conference?
Yeah, so in addition to being unbeaten at home, this is a team that's very potent. And I use that word specifically because it's not like a Vancouver Whitecaps, who obviously I'm sure San Diego FC fans know as the best team in the Western Conference right now. The Vancouver, unlike Charlotte, will just hit you with a flurry. They shoot for volume, if you will, right? They are at the top of the leader tables in terms of total shots. Charlotte, on the other hand, very interesting. So they've got a +6 goal differential, meaning they've scored 6 more goals than they've allowed. And interestingly enough, their defense is pretty decent. 7 goals allowed, which is second least in MLS. But their shot total, they've got the third fewest shots in MLS at 70, but 30 of those are on target. So they're not someone that will shoot at will, just hoping that they can score based off of shooting volume. This Charlotte team knows how to break in with combinations and how to break lines with their passing, but they also hit you on the counterattack as well. So this is the reason why they've been able to remain unbeaten this early at home. So that I think San Diego FC is going to have to be aware of that. But knowing Patty McNair, knowing Chris McVeigh, San Diego FC's defense has been very dependable both on the road and at home. And in fact, last week against Colorado, that was the first time San Diego has allowed, more than 2 goals, particularly at home. They allowed 3 goals against Colorado. That was the first time that they've seen that in an opposition in the regular season. So this defense is worthy and prepared to go on the road against a pretty tough Charlotte team. So we'll see if we see something a little bit similar to what we saw in Colorado last week, or maybe potentially something closer to a very tough Austin matchup that we saw almost a month ago.
Contributing writers for Black Players for Change, Drake Hill's joining us to talk some MLS and some San Diego FC. We're going to dive into some transfer window rules and everything on our Soccer 101 that we do once a week with you, Drake. But before we get to that, something that you are, as a locked-in soccer person that you are, what is something, the game within the game, that you are watching for in tomorrow's matchup against Charlotte that a lot of San Diego FC fans can be on the lookout for as they watch along?
Well, I would think I want to stick with Chucky Lozano. Chucky Lozano, obviously, San Diego FC fans know, obviously, and being the best player on the team, kind of the poster boy around here in San Diego. And in fact, Braden, he's a man of the people. I've seen this guy at UTC just walking along with his family, just like an everyday guy. But, I think that when we talk about designated players, which is what we talked about last week as well, and how they fit into the roster budget and how they can kind of exceed in their salary beyond the basically almost $6 million that you have as a team to spread amongst players and salary. He is someone who's performed. He's got second most assists in a team that is leading MLS in assists and anywhere around 1 and 2 depending on the week so far. He's been pivotal, right? Not just in scoring the goals, and I think that when we talk about DPs, as we call them, who are attackers, we think goals, 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 goals. But I think that going up against the Charlotte team, that you're going to have, I know you've watched Carolina Panthers games. There's not really much to be excited about Bank of America Stadium. I mean, they're playing on turf down there. I wouldn't necessarily say it's a intimidating environment going down there to Charlotte. But what I will say about that team is that their attack is something that San Diego FC fans need to know about. One is Wilfred Zaha. This is a guy who has scored countless goals in the English Premier League. He knows what it's like to, play against a Manchester United, against an Arsenal Football Club, against a Manchester City. He's come to play for Charlotte, and he's basically teaming up with a young U.S. men's national team guy named Patrick Agyemang. He's one of the best young players in MLS. This guy is, barely able to get into a club if he wanted to. That's how young he is, and he's still able to perform, almost like a Jackson Merrill, who's clearly, in my opinion, probably one of the best players in Major League Baseball, best young players in Major League Baseball. So Patrick Agyemang is like that. He's at that level, represents the U.S. men's national team. So I think San Diego FC fans need to be mindful of those two guys up front.
Drake Hill's contributing writer for Black Players for Chains, who helps us out with some MLS coverage, is joining us right now on the Braden Surprenant show. I want to go back to the turf thing. I know most soccer entities want them playing on natural grass. I know that's a big point of contention. How does the turf play a factor into the match coming up tomorrow? Does that affect San Diego FC style at all? I think this is the first time that they play on turf this year.
Yeah, Colorado plays on grass. Austin at Q2 Stadium and down there is one of the best soccer-specific stadiums that MLS can offer. They play on grass.
We obviously have grass.
Obviously we have grass, San Diego. So this is a little bit different than, let's say, if we're talking about NFL or college football games, right? The game is played on the ground. Like the ball, the object is played on the ground. So the way the ball moves for a team like San Diego FC, who is in top 5 in terms of total passing, passes connected, passes into the final third, they're in the upper echelon, the upper third of some of those more specific categories. But as far as total passes, they pass more than most of the league. They're not at the top of the list, but they're close. And so the way that San Diego FC plays is a lot of link-up play, a lot of touches for someone like Anibal Godoy in the middle of the midfield, who likes to orchestrate things and make sure he protects the back line, protects the defense, and making sure that guys like Luca De La Torre can go forward with the ball and connect with Anders Dreyer, with Chucky Lozano, Jeppe Sverikov as well. So I think that the way the ball moves on turf is going to be a little bit different. But listen, if these guys, a lot of them, someone like Anibal Godoy, he's a 10-year vet, 15-year vet in the league. So he's been, in MLS, he knows what it's like to play on turf. So I don't think it's going to be a hindrance to the team as a whole. But for someone who is not used to how the game differs at a very minute level, whether you're at the game or watching it on TV, I think it's something just to be, in the know about, if you will.
We talked a little bit about roster construction last week. We do want to talk about transfer windows this week in MLS, and we do some Soccer 101 on this show once a week with Drake Hills. And so when you look at the transfer windows, there's a primary transfer window and a secondary transfer window. For all of us fans of sports in the United States, what is a transfer window? What can you accomplish during these, and why are there two separate transfer windows for the MLS?
Right. So in just soccer in general, we should just start, general, right? There are two transfer windows across the globe. If you watch the English Premier League and you love watching Manchester United, or you like watching Real Madrid in Spain, those big clubs, just as much as MLS, they both have two transfer windows. One is usually called the January window, which essentially is hovering around, these days they kind of have fluctuated in the actual days, but they're basically from New Year's Day until January 31 or January 30th. Then you'll go into the summer window, which opens in July, and you'll have some that kind of flow in at in early August. But here's how this is tough when you start talking about MLS with the primary window and the secondary window compared to the rest of the world. So obviously, most of the world plays in the fall to spring season. So a lot of the transfer activity is aligned. Right? So if a player moves from Spain to England, they're basically on, relatively, in general, kind of on the same schedule. The problem with MLS is that they play through the summer. And so when you talk about the actual window, the secondary window in particular, you're looking at, let's just say, 30% of the games left, which is kind of tough, right? When thinking about, okay, if we sign a player in the middle or the end of August, you really only have all of September to see what this player does, how this player can acclimate before going into October. You start thinking about MLS Cup playoffs if your team is in the playoff picture. So it's a little tough, as opposed to if the secondary transfer window, which is July 24th to August 21st, that window in any other country or most countries is dead in the off season, for the most part. English Premier League starts a little early, so August 21st is actually a little late. But July and early August, all leagues are basically in preseason or still in the off season. That's in the thick of MLS. So that's how that differs. So in fact, this transfer window that is coming to an end in about 5 days, the primary transfer window opened on the 31st of January, closes on the 23rd. That's next Wednesday. That actually is when a lot of MLS teams want to do a lot of their business, because the value from that player can be exponentially better, given that, we're still, by that time going to be 9 games in, as opposed to 27 games in out of a 34 game season. So pretty big contrast. But another thing to note, Braden, is that you are allowed to do business with players and essentially all but agree and register them onto your team. So though you can sign a player technically outside of MLS, you cannot register them to the league, and therefore they cannot play outside of these two windows.
And so it's like almost like having two kind of deadlines in Major League Baseball, and you obviously want to get it done as quickly as possible, so you use these players for a longer period of time than only at the bottom or tail end of the season. Last thing for you, I mean, they have some roster freeze dates. September 12th is the final day to make roster moves. After this, no changes can be made before the end of the season. Teams can still sign free agents between the close of the secondary transfer window and this date. So as soon as they roster freezes, you can't make any type of moves, or are there certain things that you can tweak to your roster?
So there's going to be, we talked about a couple of weeks ago, the pathway to pro, right? So let's say if you've got a player who, similar to baseball, right, you can kind of expand and bring a guy up from, let's say, AAA. The same thing would be for MLS Next Pro. You have a goalkeeper, another goalkeeper you want to bring into the first team. You can do that. But as far as registering new players that are not already in your organization, you cannot do that once that roster freeze deadline hits. So, if we're thinking about, MLS Cup playoffs, again, we're kind of going into October. Really, that final stretch of September is when, whoever's on your team is whoever's on your team. So again, I think that bringing and maximizing value for a player that you've traded for and you've acquired and registered for the league, it really adds more value and pressure to this primary transfer window, particularly if this is someone who is going to be a starter. We talk about the senior roster, someone who's dependable, most likely a intra-league acquisition, meaning you've traded a player within Major League Soccer. So that is, likely going to be someone who you would be depending on, whether in your starting lineup or at least a very active rotational player. So the next 5 days should be interesting to see if San Diego FC makes any moves, but that'll be a deadline and a day to look out for San Diego FC fans.
We'll take a look to see if they make any moves and then talk about it next week. Drake, I appreciate the time as always. Enjoy your Easter weekend. Happy Easter to you and your family, and look forward to talking to you next week.
Absolutely. And looking forward to see what the Padres do.
That's right. Padres off to a great start. Drake, appreciate the time as always. Thanks again to Drake Hills joining us today on the Braden Surprenant Show as we get up in time. Always a wealth of knowledge for MLS and trying to get you as much soccer content in a Friday as we possibly can. Game tomorrow again at 4:30. San Diego will be at Charlotte FC to try to bounce back after a 3-2 loss to Colorado last week. This game in Chicago is off the rails. Cubs jumped out to a 2-0 lead. Diamondbacks made it 2-1. Cubs in the bottom half of the seventh inning with the bases loaded, leading 2-1, hit a grand slam to go up 6-1, and then added another run to go up 7-1. In the top of the eighth inning, the Diamondbacks equaled the grand slam. They have made it 7-5. And now with runners on second and third, Perdomo hits one up the middle. Dansby Swanson has nowhere to go with it. With runners on second and third, the Diamondbacks pull within one run in the top half of the eighth inning with 2 outs. What a ball game between two really good teams in the National League. Glad you don't have to play the Cubs anymore. But I tell you what, you're going to have to play the Diamondbacks 13 times. I mean, what you're seeing out of the National League is awesome. I mean, we are going to have a great summer of baseball with highly competitive games. I mean, these guys are playing their you-know-what off here in April. It's April. It's April 18th. And we got playoff-level baseball going on in the National League. The National League is so much better than the American League. The National League West is the best division in baseball. I mean, the Cubs put up 5 runs in the bottom of the seventh. The Diamondbacks have answered with 5 runs in the top half of the eighth, and they're still threatening with runners on the corners and 2 outs to Randall Grichuk. This is going to be a fun summer of baseball. I mean, it's just going to be fun to watch, and your San Diego Padres are right at the top of it right now in first place. Hopefully the Padres can take care of business tonight against the Houston Astros. Coming up in the 2 o'clock hour on Gwynn and Chris, Jason Adam will join the show at 2:40. Always a great time with Jason Adam. The guy's a pro's pro. lights out, lockdown in the bullpen, and he exuded at third base. Oh, my God. A base hit to left as the third baseman for the Cubs ends up missing the ball. It has led to chaos. 1 run scores for the Diamondbacks to make it 7-7. Play at the plate as they try to nail Perdomo at the dish. Goes awry. And the Diamondbacks have an 8-7 lead on the Cubs in the top half of the 8th inning and another run at third to try to get an insurance run. What a game in Chicago right now. Like I said, it's going to be a fun season, a fun summer of baseball in the United States, especially in the National League. I mean, this game is nuts. Gwen and Chris coming up next. I'm Braden Surprenant signing off on the Braden Surprenant Show on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.